Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So let me make sure I am up. Everything is green. And yes, I am up. I'm strongly suspecting nobody is going to be up to watch this live stream. So I am just going to do a video. It's the morning after Thanksgiving. It's like 4 a.m. Roughly 4 a.m. 3:45. Yeah, 3:45. Everybody is asleep. The dogs are unconscious. And I couldn't sleep because I slept most of the day. So I figured, what better than to do a video? Let's do a video. Let's be epic and whimsical at the exact same time, and let's do a video. Let's ask an immensely expansive question. This should probably be 420, but let's ask an immensely expansive question. Does redemption exist? Does redemption exist? I'm going to use this through the lens of a comic book, by the way. That's why I said whimsical. So, Final Night, the death of Hal Jordan. Now, for those who don't pay attention to comic books, Hal Jordan is a Green Lantern. Green Lanterns guard their sectors using. Look, it's a comic book, so take it with a grain of salt. The awesomeness of comic books is not how these guys get their powers or anything like that. It's the themes that come up. It's almost like the background for the characters themselves, what these characters encounter. Because look, ultimately, any story you read, whether you watch, it ultimately boils down to people and the interactions between those people. So, Hal Jordan, he's a Green Lantern. Green Lanterns have rings. Those rings are a piece of technology. That piece of technology uses the emotional spectrum. In this case, this thing of will, this idea of wanting or needing to do something. It's fascinating because they use will as if it's like a muscle. It's like you can harness your will. You can make it. And look, that by itself is fucking fascinating. Like, it's so intangible. Like, what does it mean for somebody to want something? And then it's like, can you measure that particular want? Not in a biological way, but in this kind of conceptual way. What does it mean to want something? And what does it mean to how bad you want it? When you guys hear me make this point of people, for the most part, are roughly just situations are the things that change those people, the situations that those people be in, the culture, the environment. Like, a person is not inextricable from its environment. There's a fudge factor in that, and that's will. That's consciousness. It's what you yourself want. I've always said there's a difference. People are different to some degree, but that difference is constrained based on the environment that those people are in. Meaning, you have a range of what you may do. You have this part of you that's you, but that you is ensconced in an environment, in a society. Hal Jordan, for the moment, this idea of will, like for them, you're able to, depending on how much you want it and your ability to push yourself forward in this particular thing, that somehow is harnessed and measured and put through a ring in the sense of green energy that gets built into these constructs, these things that they can make, these hard light constructs. So Hal Jordan, this is a lot of weeds to go through, the wood chop, but I'm gonna make it quick. Hal Jordan is a Green Lantern. He's the greatest of the Green Lanterns. Superman dies. I know this gets weird, but it's a lot of weeds. Superman dies. In the process of Superman dying, there were a bunch of other Superman men that came back. They were fake Supermen, but there was a bunch of other Supermen. One of these fake Supermen, it was like mechanical Superman, robotic Superman, whatever he called himself. He destroyed Coast City. Coast City is where the Green Lantern lived. That was his hometown. Green Lantern goes into this emotional fit, and in going into an emotional fit, he tries to recreate his entire city using hard light constructs. For this, he is punished. Now, the Lanterns work under these little blue aliens. I can't think of their names. The Guardians. Well, Hal Jordan gets pissed. He throws a bitch fit, grabs energy, kills each and every Green Lantern that he comes across, steals each and every one of their rings, because in his mind, if I get enough power, I can go back and recreate everybody that was killed in Coast City. Now, he's in a fit of madness. He's losing his shit. Everybody that he's ever known has died. He's flipping out. He goes back to Oa. That's the main place. He kills everybody with the exception of one of the aliens, and he drains all of the power from the power battery that essentially supplies power to the Green Lantern ring. Now, this changes into Parallax. He becomes this different being, this all-powerful being of sorts. It's not all-powerful, but it's fucking massively powerful. And he becomes a bad guy. And he goes and kills a lot of people. Mind you, he's just killed all of the other Green Lanterns. And he goes on a tear, beating the shit out of one superhero after the next. If I'm not mistaken, he even beat the shit out of Superman. Even going so far as to try to turn timelines. Like, he was a bad guy. He was an extraordinarily bad guy in the DC universe. One of the stories, Final Night, the death of Hal Jordan, the death of the greatest Green Lanterns. Mind you, like I said, he flipped the shit and killed everybody. But there was a problem associated with Earth. And that problem associated with Earth mean there was this thing called a Sun Eater that was going to eat and devour the sun. And all of the superheroes got together in order to figure out what they were going to do. The sun is going to be destroyed. What the fuck are we going to do? So each superhero hatched their plan. You had Superman, you had Batman. In this case, Superman is losing energy because Superman is powered by the sun. So Superman just goes home and visits his parents. What else are you going to do? Your powers are fading. Ultimately, you guys have run out of solutions on what you could do. And it's like, yes, Batman is a great guy, but Batman usually just flies through the night in Gotham. This is above his pay grade. This is above his pay grade. Lex Luthor, all of these guys work together. But ultimately, at the end of it, the last Green Lantern that was left goes to Hal Jordan and begs him to help. Now, Hal Jordan has just murdered the guy who killed Ghost City. So Hal Jordan, in this case, his revenge was settled. And he makes this choice to help. And he goes back and he meets Superman, he meets Batman, and Batman is kind of like, you know, you're not going to make this into your own vision of the world, Hal. You're not going to do this. And Superman takes a different tack and extends his hand and says, I always hoped you'd come back. Now, Batman and Superman are different in this regard. Superman sees the best in people. Batman is a cynical asshole. So, I always thought you'd come back, Hal. And Hal goes up and he starts reciting the Green Lantern's oath as he tries to devour the Sun Eater himself. Meaning, he tries to take in all of this, whatever the Sun Eater is. He essentially tries to devour that Sun Eater. Because the sun was still there. The sun just needed to be repowered and he needed to be pulled back out of it. And he starts reciting the Green Lantern's oath of black is day and dark is night. No evil shall escape my sight. Now, this is fucking awesome because Hal Jordan hasn't recited this oath in God knows how long because Hal Jordan has went on a murdering spree. So this idea that he goes back to this oath as he does this one massive fucking act of redemption that ultimately saves Earth. It rejuvenates the sun. But it kills him in the process. Does Hal redeem himself? That's a fucking fascinating question. Like, is that redemption? Now, I understand me asking this is subjective. Like, this is massively subjective to the individual that's looking at this particular thing. Meaning, if Hal believes he redeems himself, then maybe Hal redeems himself. But Hal is not around to make that question. Hal comes back as the hand of God, as a specter or something like that. But that's fuckery. I'm talking about the original thing. Hal sacrifices himself in order to save the entire planet Earth. Hal has went on a killing spree. Hal has killed a lot of Green Lanterns. Hal has did a lot of bad shit in the Marvel Universe. Does he redeem himself? Oh, that's a fascinating question. That's a fascinating question. Oh, Joan, thank you. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving back at you. Happy Thanksgiving back at you. I want to add one more to this. Angel. So, I don't know if anybody has ever watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, yeah, I told you this is going to be whimsical and epic. Both. Let's go whimsical. So, Buffy the Vampire Slayer had a character called Angel. Now, Angel had a spin-off on his own show. I would say Angel was far better than Buffy because he was a much darker character. It was much more, if you look at it today, it looks absolutely ridiculous. But back then, it looked like it, I guess it was in context. But Angel is a vampire. Now, Angel killed a family of gypsies. Angel was a powerful vampire. He was pretty powerful. He ends up killing a band of gypsies, and because of that, as a curse, she ensouled him. She put his soul back in him, in a sense. Now, this changed him. I mean, it took a while for the change to take place because he still had elements of himself, meaning I remember myself being a vampire, and this was the things that vampires did, and eventually his soul starts fucking with him, saying, hey, you've murdered a lot of people. I mean, family wasn't messing with you at all. You murdered a lot of people. Now, this is problematic because you're a vampire. You eat people in order to survive. So this idea of you having a conscience about eating people is a little problematic. That said, all of the murders that he had committed, and not just murders, I mean, like, gaining glee in it, like basking in the blood of his enemies. This like, in a literal sense. And just doing it willy-nilly, by the way. It's not, this guy's my enemy, so I'm going to kill him. It's, here's a family who's walking by. Oh my God, the baby tastes amazing. It's that type of stuff. It gets on him. It grates on him. I mean, he gets to the point where he's like living in the sewers, eating rats for sustenance because he's so guilt-ridden about what is taking place. He's doing this for years. But eventually, he gets his wits back together. He goes on this course for redemption. He wants to be a better vampire. And he becomes what the universe called a champion. Now, this champion wasn't him giving him that name. This was from a cosmic level. Like, I fucking love the show. This Joss Whedon. He made him a champion. From a cosmic level, these cosmic beings looked at him, the vampire with a soul. This is a thing that's never happened before. This vampire with a soul. This guy is a champion. He has something to be decided in the battle between light and dark. Now, what I'm getting at here is his goal was redemption. Now, can you be redeemed? What's the number? How do you get redemption for anything that you've done? And with all of these rape allegations, is it possible for Harvey Weinstein to get redemption? Is it possible for Bernie Madoff to get some level of redemption at the end of his life? Are these things possible? I'm talking about these things in the context of comic books because I want to put it on an epic scale. You kill a lot of people. In Hal Jordan's case, you killed a lot of people. In what's his name's case, you killed a ton of people. Is there any way doing good deeds to redeem yourself from the murders of those people? That's my question. That's my question. I have 23 people here. That's not a huge number of people, but let's see. Even Gardnome is here. Jay Scott. All right, you guys. I don't know why you guys are not up this late. This better not be a long-winded roundabout analogy to Joe. Oh God, no. It better not fucking be. It's not. It's not. It has nothing to do with Jordan. Yeah, wait for it, Jay. Look, Clemente. Not so much. I give people enemas and have them defecate on my stomach to hear more about Jordan Sheridan. Actually, you're the one that brought that up, Jay Scott. Gardnome, if Jordan's lawsuit results is forcing TYT to release financial statements, then he will be redeemed. Oh, is that redemption? Is that redemption? But it would be great. Because I'm West Coast. Ah, I see. Gardnome, I napped earlier. Good for you, Gardnome. Naps are good. Congrats on the 5,000 subs, Jamal Winkle to Bernie Bro. Yeah, thank you, man. I saw that and was like, holy shit. I was like, holy shit. I thought to myself, I said, there are some segments that I do that I think are fucking amazing. Where I'm like, you know, this piecing into this idea of consciousness, or piecing into this idea of the way politics interact, the way the parties are fucking people over, or even this kind of anti-military thing. And I'm looking, I was like, yeah, that's a really good segment. No views. No views at all. And it's like Jordan raped somebody, and it's like a huge number of people watch it, and it's like, okay, that's great. That's great. That's fucking great. That's awesome. That's awesome. Your live views are even going up. I saw that also. But I'm wondering if that's just this thing of Jordan Sheridan potentially raped somebody and they had an orgy, and because they had an orgy, people think that's salacious and they are interested in it. I don't know if that's where it is. And if that's where it is, nah, that's a fly by night. I'm not taking away from the people. Hopefully they enjoy the channel and everything else. But certainly, you know, this orgy thing is few and far between. My channel has a mini blow up too. I wish my parody vids instead was Jordan Sheridan. That's funny. There's a spike because of Jordan, but it started before that. Gardnome. So I noticed a little bit, right? I watch I watch how many people watch the live videos. And so usually it's maybe like, I think when I started it was like 20, maybe 10, then went up to 20. And then normally around the time I do vids, particularly since, you know, it's random. It's like, I want to do a video. Let's do a video. And so that could be anytime. That could be 3 in the morning. Like right now, 4 in the morning. And I would see, yeah, I would see more people watching. I'll see more people watching. I've seen more names that have become more familiar. It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. Personally, I like my videos. I like some of my videos. Let me put it that way. It's like the ones that I really like are the ones that people are like, eh. The ones that I'm okay with are the ones that people love. And I think it's just the topics. It gets up to 70 sometimes. Yeah. Yeah. The other day it was up to 99, I believe. It was almost at 100. I was like, wow. I was like, holy shit. There's a lot of people watching this. I'll start going live myself once I get a computer camera and mic coming soon. Winkle, I watched your parody video and laughed my ass off. I watched your parody video and laughed my ass off. I can't think of the name of the show. When I heard it, I was like, oh, I know where this is from. I know where this is from. I couldn't think of the name where the tune was taken from, but I watched it. Yeah. But no, man, you've put up so much content, it's hard to keep up with. Because I have all sorts of shit running through my head. And think of it this way. It's like if you get the chance to either write or you get the chance to just speak your piece. I'm an Aries moon. And between the two, I am far easier just speaking my piece. And once it became, oh, there are people listening to this. Fucking A. If when I put my box outside and I stand on that particular soapbox and there are people listening, fuck it, I'm gonna talk. I'm gonna talk. I enjoy it. So, yeah, I enjoy it. Joan Levino, bring it on. Oh, thank you, Joan. I appreciate it. I appreciate your rants at times also. I read the comments. Like, I actually do read the comments. I don't get as much time to respond back, but between work and everything else, but I read the comments. And a lot of people have friended me on Facebook, and I read their comments. And so I understand that I am in somewhat of an echo chamber. My wife is my conduit out of that particular echo chamber. So is my mom. They're my conduits out. But there's some things that people say that I am like, yes, that is fucking awesome. And sometimes, Joan, you're on that list of I think this is a prescient comment of a population, or part of the population. And whether or not elements of the party itself want to deal with that, they ignore that at their peril. They ignore it at their peril. So, yeah. Joan Levino, blush. Ah, you don't have to blush. You're just being you. Wiggle the Burner Bro. Of course I did healthcare. Garno. Chad, we all hate TYT. I don't hate TYT. Or do you mean recently? Universal Healthcare 2017. Last I heard, the lawyer posted a notice that he might end up dead for taking this case. Wait a minute. Are we talking about Jordan Chariton? Oh! Jay Scott. What happened? You're supposed to be policing these people. What happened, Jay? You dropped your... Jay Scott has dropped the ball. Jay Scott has dropped the ball. We are having this conversation about redemption. We're having this conversation about redemption. That's the conversation I want to talk about. You guys have put up George Sheridan. No, I honestly want to have this conversation about redemption. Is redemption possible? I chopped a lot of wood going through some comic book history and some Angelverse history or Buffyverse history, whatever they call it, to bring it around to that very particular point. Is redemption possible? When somebody fucks up, is it possible for that person to redeem themselves by doing something good? We can go to Stargate. Tilk on Stargate. Tilk was part of this. Yes, I'm still talking about redemption because I'm forcing this conversation for redemption. Jamal loves TYT. He loves Anna. I do not love TYT. That's a little strong. I particularly don't like Anna. I gotta be honest. I don't like Anna. There's the lib in me. When I used to watch TYT, when I was particularly doing the Bernie Sanders primaries, it was something that took place on TYT. I was like, all right, I'm done. During the Sanders primaries, they pulled me back in because their coverage of Bernie Sanders was just fucking amazing. They were holding debates and everything else. I don't like Anna's character. Not that character, but you know what I mean. I don't like Anna. It's something about her that grates on my nerves. And I was like, is this just me being a guy? And if this is just me being a guy, maybe I should just let that go and just give her a chance. I don't like her character. It has nothing to do with me being a guy. It's this thing of like being uber atheist, where she looked down on other people, not realizing that atheism is a religion in and of itself. It's this thing of, you know, I think women are stupid for voting for Trump. It's like, what? What do you mean? Is it possible they have reasons that go beyond your you know, you're thinking of events. Just because you became somewhat of a hillbot during the campaign because you're scared of Trump, how are you bashing these other people who are doing the same? I don't like Anna. I don't like Anna. Of the characters on the show, the one character I actually did like was Jake. He was the person I liked on the show. When he became somewhat of a hillbot, it became hard to watch. It became hard to watch. Anna's become so freaked out and uptight. She's often unbearable. She wasn't like that. And can Anna be redeemed? Oh, there's the question. Can Anna be redeemed? Finally, we're back on redemption. All right, let's go with redemption. Can Anna be redeemed? Anna has a superiority complex. I don't know why. Maybe. I don't know why. This may not be politically correct, but Anna wouldn't be bad if she was mute. Oh, Dominique Buscema. Oh, the Don Draper of the group. All right, Dominique, go ahead. We'll go to Bernie Bro. Can Chink be redeemed after defending Hillary? Look, I'm fascinated by this question. Yes, all of this is fair. Answer the question. All of this is fair. All of this is fair. I miss watching aggressive progressives but refuse to pay TYT. Eval79. Look, is all of this purely based on because they went after Hillary? I mean, if they went for Hillary. Is that what this is? I honestly don't. I know for me, when I gauge my feelings on this, like when I dig down deep and try to understand why I couldn't necessarily, why I stopped watching, I think it was a Hillary thing for me. Like, it wasn't, I didn't hate the characters. I don't like Anna, and from a news standpoint, if you're talking about news that's on the left, you have far and few between options. I mean, granted, you have like Real News, those type of shows. Democracy Now!, Real News, that type of stuff. But is it the Hillary thing? I know for me, it became unbearable in the sense of, wait a minute, they cheated the guy, and you're co-signing that cheating. And then it was, wait a minute, you're running just as Democrats. You're supposed to be a news show. What the fuck are you doing? Like right now, perfect example. Seeing as they have a dog in the hunt with Justice Democrats. God damn it, Garno. I'm not trying to put a knife in anybody. Seeing as they have a thing with Justice Democrats, does the show have a vested interest in sheepdogging people into the Democratic Party because they themselves are running candidates that are in the Democratic parties? They're fucking calling themselves Justice Democrats. Take off the justice. I don't know what that means. They call themselves Democrats. Does the show have a vested interest? Meaning, even if the correct choice was Dem Exit, would the show push for somebody to go with the direction of Dem Exit? Because they have a dog in the hunt themselves. It's part of the reason that they were so on this bandwagon of, no, you shouldn't investigate Hillary Clinton, even though they've done one show after the next showing that the woman was dirty as can be. Does any of that have something to do with their ties to the party itself with this thing of Justice Democrats? It's one thing if they were separate and distinct. You can say, well, the choices and the decisions and the perspectives that they take on that particular show are separate and distinct from the party itself. You can understand that it's a separate thing of its own. But what about now? You have a tether. You're literally connected to this other party. And we're supposed to believe that the choices and the things and the views that you're espousing in your show are somehow separate and distinct from the fact that you have a political arm of your show itself. Sorry, man, that's a massive conflict of interest. It's a massive fucking conflict of interest. It's like when you're watching the show, are you getting propaganda for the political wing, or are you getting the actual news? Fuck knows. Fuck knows. So yeah, I bitch about that because I think it's a horrible a conflict of interest. But wait a minute. Get back to the main point. Is redemption possible? Like, what does redemption mean in a sense? In the case of Hal Jordan, does Hal Jordan killing himself in order to save the world redeem himself? And what does it even mean to have redemption in that sense? Does Angel saving a bunch of people and even saving, you know, the universe at some point, or saving the world at some point, does that give him redemption for the people that he murdered and slaughtered and killed? What does Anna do in the cases that these guys brought up to redeem herself after whatever the fuck she did that you guys dislike? Same thing with the show. What about in general? What about in general? TYT turned into a tool for the oligarchs. I don't know if that's true. I hate Trump, by the way, but it was Russia, 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 and I can't take the McCarthyism. I can't take the McCarthyism either. Winkle. Agree. Totally agree. Gardenome, Winkle, it's all on Trump, all of it. Gardenome, yeah. Luca Clemente, exactly, Winkle. Gardenome, can't TYT be redeemed? Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Eval, of course. All right, how? Winkle Bro, no it isn't. How? That's what I'm asking. How? If Anna left TYT and calmed the fuck down a bit, I'd give her a second chance. If she left TYT, why did she have to leave TYT to calm the fuck down? Can't she just calm the fuck down while she's on TYT? Does both of those, that can't work? Green Party of Santa Clara County. There is a similar study in the Book of Crime and Punishment. Chad Wilson, redemption is only possible with the acknowledgement of one's faults. Chad Wilson, okay. So Charles Manson, let's take Charles Manson out of it. Hal Jordan murders a bunch of people. He murders a bunch of people. But he gives his life to save Earth. And giving his life to save Earth, the act itself is not enough for redemption. But let's say Hal Jordan doesn't save a bunch of people. But Hal Jordan just says, I fucked up. Are you saying that the latter is redemption, but the former is not? Is that what I'm hearing? Dominic Busticelle. Anna sexually, I think he's trying to say sexually abused me the other night in my shower. She wasn't really there, but she was responsible for it. Oh, that's pretty vulgar and sexist. Dominic Busticelle. Eval 79. They got to do the right thing. What does that mean? Dominic Busticelle. What does it mean if we do the right thing? If anybody can be redeemable, I am asking how. I'm asking how, not some conceptual thing. How? Brass tacks. Like, I give an example. Paul Ryan comes out and says, we're going to put this budget out because we want to help the middle class. We want to help people to be free. We want to allow workers and jobs to unleash creativity and spur our economy forward. Now, that's what he's saying. That's his rhetoric. Brass tacks. How does this work in the physical matter universe? We're giving tax cuts to a bunch of billionaires. That's what we're doing. We're going to raise taxes on the middle class. That's what we're doing. We're going to strip away services and goods from people for themselves. I read somewhere that they were talking about increasing the fares for people to go into national parks. Why? Why are you increasing the fares on national parks? Are you not getting enough tax revenue in order to pay for those national parks? Is that the problem? You're essentially redistributing wealth to the top. And in order to pay for the services and things that we require as a society, you're making people to pay out of pocket for those things. Winkle Bernie Bro, what about personal versus public redemption? Oh, thank you, Bernie. Thank you, Bernie Bro. What about personal versus public redemption? Well, look, those personal redemption is different. Like you've heard me say before, if it's when we're interacting in a secular way, God is off the table. I mean, any argument or conversation that you have about God is non secular. It doesn't exist. It's not there. It doesn't work. The conversations that you have, for the most part, have to deal with this thing of, I guess what I'm saying is, if there's no God on the table, then this idea of how you see yourself versus how you see the rest of the world is purely on you. It's your perspective. It's your perspective. How do I see me in the grand scheme of things versus how the public sees me in the grand scheme of things? Now, the catch of that, though, is most people are not separate and distinct from the public to which they exist. Meaning, whatever your particular community is, that's the community that you identify with, that you say, yes, I agree with X, Y, Z, I'm a part of X. They may see you a particular way. You may care about how that particular society sees you in that way. Meaning, how you perceive yourself is not completely separate and distinct from how the public views you. That is, you can imagine, somewhat problematic. That's somewhat of a public pressure. You grew up in a household. That household is all Democrats. The household is all KKK. The household is all Vulcans. What is the societal pressure on you? How do you behave and accustom to that societal pressure? And ultimately, your personality, in many respects, is either an acceptance or rebuke of the things that society is pushing on you. Public versus, if I was in private and there was no one else around me, how I view myself is somewhat of a separate and distinct thing. I don't give a shit how other people view me because there's nobody else there. People have all sorts of oddities to their personality. Like, you may have somebody who says having sex feels bad to them. Oh my God, this feels bad. It feels bad. I've done a bad thing. But that's a personal thing. That doesn't exist in anywhere else. That's purely in that person's head. But that person feels a particular way about it. And look, that's a cultural thing, by the way. When you hear them talk about, when you hear the Jordan Sheridan thing come up, and they're having this conversation about, this is what we did in the hotel room, and it sounds so salacious. It's like, even in the Tim Black interviews, like, I don't know if he said this exactly, but this was the line of questioning that you don't necessarily have a choice in these conversations. Is, did he take his pants off? Were you naked when you were in the hot tub? Like, it sounds so salacious. But when she's explaining what took place, she's extraordinarily sheepish about it. And I'm not talking about the Carly Hammond. I'm talking about the other girl who's there. She's like, yeah, I love women and men, and I'm not ashamed about it, and blah blah blah. It's like, but certainly there's an uber awareness that you're talking about something that's somewhat intimate and private. If somebody said, I woke up that morning and took a shower, that's a very different conversation as opposed to I woke up that morning and gave somebody a blowjob. Taking a shower, for the most part, seems normal and natural as can be. Giving a blowjob, again, is normal as natural as can be. And yet, one is not necessarily told, or one is told with a really sheepish perspective of things. That's all in your head. But that's all the societal pressure that's put on you to give you that particular perspective. You could have a society that had no way any inhibitions regarding sex at all. Them saying that they had some kind of blowjob orgy in the room wouldn't matter one iota. All of these people watching that video, for my Jordan Sheridan video, I suspect those people are there because we're having a salacious conversation and they're just prying eyes on some kind of misery and failure and some controversy. They had sex. Whoop they fucking do. I guess what I'm saying is, this thing of how an individual views himself is not completely separate and distinct from the society itself. Those people are looking at this thing in this particular salacious way only because the society has driven in them to look at it a particular way. They think that they're being individuals in that perspective. They're not. They're being robots. All of us are. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I'm above it all. I'm not. I'm fascinated by the story myself, only from the standpoint of, oh man, that's fucked up. And yeah, my heart goes out to the guy. My heart goes out to him. But public and private is different. They're different, but they're not completely separate and distinct. That's all. That's a lot of wood to chop. I'm sorry, but I'm trying to answer that specific question, or at least trying to. Those things aren't separate and distinct. You're not separate and distinct from the environment to which you exist. That's all I mean. Is it possible for some people to have this kind of inner knowing, this inner... Think of Martin Luther King back during the Civil Rights Movement, when his society is telling him one thing and he's virulently opposed to it and pushing in the other direction, saying, no, you guys are wrong. You guys are fucking wrong. Is it possible that Martin Luther King internalized some of the things that society was saying? Yes. It is also possible that he thought to himself, this is wrong. They're putting certain things in me that I don't necessarily agree with, and I'm going to rebuff these ideas. Yes. And that's what he did. He gave his life for it. The public has a perspective of Martin Luther King. I would imagine a lot of people did. They thought he was a rubber rouser. They thought, why is this guy coming up? Why is this guy bitching about this stuff? But certainly he understood himself that what he was talking about was right. He understood what he was talking about was right. So it's not a situation, I don't think he was trying to find redemption in this way. But there are situations where individuals transcend what the society thinks of those particular individuals. And yeah, in that sense, I guess you can say that person has a personal redemption. But I don't know how you get public redemption in this way. I just don't, like, look, I guess what it boils down to is, at least from my standpoint, what redemption means is different to the individual because it's massively subjective. And there may be some individuals who say you never get redemption. There may be others who say, yes, I feel that this person redeemed himself. Superman shaking Hal Jordan's hand, Batman saying, being a cynical bastard, saying, just because he died that way. I think Batman's response was, Superman, he died a hero. Batman was like, I wish he lived a hero. Well, yeah, I get it. I get it. It's subjective. There's no answer to the question. It's subjective. It depends on the person who's looking at it. Reality in this case is subjective. I think that person redeemed himself. I think he didn't redeem himself. I think he's somewhere in between. I like this piece of artwork. I think this artwork gets to the core of what it means to be a human being. I think this person just threw a bunch of paint on the page. Which one is true? All of it is true. All of it is true. There's no right answer. Alright, let's see. I ran my mouth. Chad Wilson, if Jen got fired from TYT, then redemption is possible. Wow, you guys are hard asses, man. You guys are hard asses. I would offer the end of the Dickens tale, Two Cities. The hero saved by his rich double, who has lived a dissolute life and has taken his place for execution. So he only found redemption through death. That's what you're saying. I would offer the end of Dickens' Tale of Two Cities. The hero is saved by his rich double, who has lived a dissolute life and takes his place for execution. The rich double dies anonymous to the world, but with an overwhelming sense of redemption and purpose. Personal redemption. Giving his life to save somebody else after living a shitty life. That's personal redemption. But what does it mean to the greater society? Is public redemption just impossible? Is that what we're saying? You fuck up. You fucked up royally. It's done. Would I always record my sexual encounters video proof? That's why I always record my sexual video encounters video proof. Hey you, yeah. Good for you, man. I hope that shit never gets out. I hope it never gets out. Gardno. Fuck Jordan. He was drinking from TYT's scam cup. Ah, you cynical bastard. Chad Wilson. The liars and propaganda mouthpieces have to be rid of for people to believe there's change. Alright, let me play devil's advocate. Yeah, let me play devil's advocate. So, lefties have a convergence. It wasn't convergence. It was the left forum, I believe. One of the people there, one of the meetings that we went into the psychological makeup of both sides, meaning the left and the right, and that there is some research making this point that there's this kind of neurological thing that goes into people's political leanings, that it's not purely just this kind of cultural thing. There's some people who are built a particular way, meaning, and not getting on the left, this kind of lizard brain reactive, you know, I'm terrified of everything and everything is coming to get me, even though everybody else is supposed to be dandelions. Whether they realize it or not, this response of needing a gun is weakness. That's not strength. That's weakness. I'm sorry. That's weakness. That's coming from a place of, I am terrified. I am scared. Everything is a threat. I need to defend myself. I need a gun. I need a... Yeah, that's you being terrified of the world. That's you being terrified of the world. Unfortunately, you being a maniac adversely affects everybody else. Fuck. Tangents. Yeah, fuck tangents. For the left standpoint, though, disorganized, you know, it's like herding cats. And distrustful of power centers. Distrustful of power centers. Is it possible? Is it possible to any degree that's possible that any network that sprung up, if it was a lefty network, you guys would hate just because after it gets to a certain point? Meaning, is it possible that the left would, like a horde of bees, attack anything that becomes this kind of organized structure of sorts once it gets to a certain point in its development? Meaning, whatever you create, if you created something tomorrow within 10 years, you guys will hate it. And you create something else within another 10 years, you will hate it. The kernels of the destruction of a particular thing is built into the thing once it's built. Is that possible? Like, I'm trying to understand the mechanism of dislike here. Was Darth Vader redeemed when he saved Luke? Eval 79. Good question. Good fucking question. I would imagine to Luke he was, yeah. To Luke, yes. To the mom who he might have killed their kids, probably not. I would imagine there is no redemption to the mother that lost their kid from some cop that murdered that kid. I don't give a shit what that cop does later in his life. Yeah, it depends on the person. It really does. But the absence of logic and thought is not an excuse for pushing that fear. They are partly the reason for the problem. Misinformation with passion is dangerous. Chad Wilson. I need an example. Give me an example. Give me an example. Give me an example. Gardno. it gets to a certain point and begins scamming and lies and cheating. Give me an example. I need examples. I need examples. I'm playing devil's advocate here because I want to know what this is. I want to understand it. I want to understand it from brass. I want to understand it. Can George Lucas be truly redeemed after the disaster that was Jar Jar Binks? No, he can't. No, he can't. No, he can't. George Lucas was going to die in a coffin in an unmarked grave in Idaho somewhere. Darth Vader murders all those children. Not sure how you come back from that. Lucius Zeus. This is the question that we're asking. That's my point. That's what I'm asking. So, if Darth Vader lived for 1,000 years, and in year 89, he murdered 20 kids, there is nothing that Darth Vader can do in the 800 and so years after that can redeem of him killing those 20 kids. So redemption depends on point of view. Yes, that's my argument. Yeah, it does. That's my argument. What else are you using to judge it by? I mean, you can't bring God into the mix, so you can't say, well, that person was saved by God, so that person was... Fuck that. That's a magical hat. That's a hand of God thing. We're talking about from human conception, and we're looking at events, and we're observing events. And this kind of philosophical question of, can a person be redeemed? And I am asking, and I'm making a point. My argument is, this is purely point of view. From Luke's standpoint, he was redeemed. Now, nobody has all the information associated with a particular individual. Meaning, Michael Vick creates a pretext that allows a bunch of dogs to fight. Now, I've made the point that Michael Vick should have spent his life in prison. And some of my friends think that's fucking insane. But I'm like, is that life, yes or no? You're not using it for food. You're not using it for anything else. You're using it literally to have these life forms attack and kill each other just because you yourself are somewhat of a more dominant life form. There's no money that bring that back. There's nothing that you can do to bring those animals back. You did that purely for sport and for fun, and you thought it was fucking awesome to have these things in pain and misery. Now, my friend will say, well, yeah, but they're dogs. What does that have to do with the price of tea in China? He thinks that's an insane point of view. From his standpoint, Michael Vick can find redemption just in whatever the fuck Michael Vick does. From my point of view, no. Now, if Michael Vick does amazing works over the course of his life, and I am aware of those amazing works, is it redemption in hand? I have no idea. It makes it a little bit more sketchy. But yeah, at some point, it is just purely going to depend on how I feel about it. Which it means to each person. It's the individual. This guy killed somebody, but later on, this guy saved a bus full of children. Is he redeemed? Who the fuck knows? That's what I mean. If you're talking to the mother of the kid that he killed, no. No. If you're talking to the bus full of children and the parents of that bus full of children, yes. Am I wrong? Is this purely an issue of perspective? I agree, Michael Vick should have had a sentence, maybe not life, but a very hard sentence. Garno. Wake up the Burning Bro. Can I be redeemed after making a terrible self-promoting video about bells and buttons? It depends on how funny the video is. If the video is good, then yes. There are fuckloads of examples. I just actually, for one, of TYD scamming in order to sell cheap Amex cards to misrepresentation when collecting donations. They live way above their means on donations. Garno. Give me an example. If there are fuckloads of examples, just give me one. And just ask for one. Eval, George Lucas was redeemed when JJ screwed up The Force Awakens. Horrible. I have to be honest. I am not a Star Wars fan. I am a Star Trek fan. There is an awesome Conan O'Brien did this fucking hilarious parody where all of these people, I think it was when Star Trek opened, Star Wars, this was like 10, 12 years ago. I think it was, yeah, this was like 10, 12, maybe even 15 years ago. Star Wars opens. And you had all of these fans who were standing outside of Star Wars in costume and all this other stuff. And they were out there for like hours and hours and hours. And Conan O'Brien sends out a guy dressed as Spock, dressed as Vulcan. And he's in Star Trek's uniform. As he walks by the crowd, he just passes and just gives a middle finger to each and every person in the crowd. It is the funniest shit ever. It is the funniest shit ever. It really is. Oh, I didn't ignore that. I didn't ignore that tweet. I didn't ignore that tweet, Gardno. I have to look at that. I have to look at the Wes Clark thing. I have to look at the Wes Clark. I have to look at that. I have to look at that. Chad Wilson. It's not logical to push Clinton out of fear of what happened to Trump. Oh, would do what evidence shows that Clinton campaign is one of ordering the establishment to give Trump validity. Chad Wilson, basically, you can't say Clinton is the lesser evil when the establishment manufactures an evil to make themselves to be lesser. That's interesting. Yeah, I like that. That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, and look, I agree with you. I voted Jill Stein. I agree with you. This thing of we're gonna play up Trump. Yeah, the WikiLeaks stocks. We're gonna play up Trump in order to make Clinton more, appetizing. And even in some of the letters saying, is it just me, or is Trump the only person that we can beat? Well, you're wrong. He wasn't the only person you can beat because you couldn't beat him. Yeah, Chad, you're on my side on this. We agree. It's this thing of it starts with no. I'm not going to go into that. I'm just saying. I think it starts with no. I think it starts with this thing of you cheated my guy and you played up this maniac. And because you've arranged the deck chairs in this way, you want me to sit and watch the performance. I'm not being a part of this performance. I say no. I'm not going to give you the presidency because you played up this other guy. Fuck no. Fuck no. I also agree with you that it for that network, if that network turned itself around and said, these guys cheated, you shouldn't vote for them, that would have been massively the place to be. Now, they might not have seen that in the beginning. They might have been terrified of Donald Trump. All that's true. All that's fair. But I agree with you on that particular point. I agree with you on that point. If your network is going to represent this kind of progressive voice, the left, they always call themselves the progressive network. Fair enough. I think that's where you needed to be. Like, I honestly think that's where you needed to be. I understand that they looked at it as they were terrified and all this other stuff. But if you're willing to give up your electoral process out of fear, I'm sorry, that's not enough, man. That's a bad choice. That's a bad choice. Like, you can be put in that situation over and over and over again. And what are you going to do? Capitulate over and over and over again because you're terrified of the other guy. At what point do you accept the fact that the party that you've aligned yourself with and you've associated yourself with is taking you for granted and fucking you over? And that ultimately you have a responsibility as being the conscience of this nation, as being the actual left, to be the adults in the room. Saying no, starting with no, starts that process. Saying no starts that process. So I agree with you. Yeah, Chad, I agree with you. I agree. I totally agree. TYT knew about WikiLeaks, knew about the Pied Piper candidate, but they still stomped for the one giving us the fear. Yeah, agreed. Saying that 20 million has no influence on their coverage is a scam in and of itself. They even scammed on the fundraising drive they had for their pet lizard. 2,000 underreported. Chad Wilson, their whole campaign was all about being afraid of Trump. Even Bernie used that narrative. Yeah, agreed. Did someone say Anna was attacked in a trail? Look, the being scared of Trump thing, I don't think that's insane. I gotta be honest. I don't think that's an insane thing. Donald Trump said fucking insane things on the campaign trail. And there is something startling about a guy coming into the campaign trail that's an overt racist. It's like, come on, be honest. Be honest. Like, on that part, yeah, I agree with you. I disagree with you on that part. I think there was, or there is something to be, I think there is concern with Donald Trump. I mean, I don't agree, I don't believe this thing of this kind of anti-imperialism thing that he played on the campaign trail, this non-intervention policy. He surrounded himself with neocons. So I do think there are issues to be concerned with Trump. Yes, they may have played it up to some degree. Ultimately, Trump has just behaved like a Republican. But Republicans are batshit crazy. They are off the fucking reservations. They are not on the political spectrum. Now, part of the reason they're not on the political spectrum is because Democrats have moved so far to the right that they've given up so much ground. Republicans just figured, well, shit, if they're moving to the right, we're going to move further to the right. We're going to keep a certain political distance from Democrats. That's what they've done. The media coverage, because you only have two parties and you have two main parties, the media looks at that as that's the range of debate, that's the spectrum of conversation, and they prefer to keep that establishment thing intact. I don't think these people are crazy for thinking Trump is a fucking maniac. I don't think that's crazy at all. The part I disagree with them on is that thinking Hillary is this kind of savior of sorts, and that you should get behind her because you're terrified of him. I think that's a problem. I think when you're looking at the WikiLeaks documents and you're finding out all the stuff, all the machinations that were going on behind the scenes, This is fucking insanity. How can you get behind that? How can you get behind that? Even if they would have said, look, vote Jill Stein. Fair enough. Even if they would have said, look, we're not getting behind the Democratic candidate. We don't believe in this Democratic candidate. We know that they cheated in order to get their candidate in. This was a rigged process, etc., etc., etc. If you're going to agree to all that, which they did, and then you end up on this thing of still vote Hillary, you've lost me. You've lost me. I don't understand the logic in that. I get this thing that Donald Trump may be terrifying. Fair enough. Fair enough. But part of the reason that Trump had the capacity that Trump had was because of the failure of the left. That's why. If you're having this conversation along ideological lines, and your biggest thing is this guy's a racist, so you have to put us in office. This country is 70% white. Even during the civil rights movement, most whites did not think that race was an issue in the country, even though they were completely disenfranchising the people, African Americans and other demographics in that society. The society thinks the same way today. Most Republicans don't see race as an issue. You have some Democrats who see it as an issue, but most Republicans don't. 70% of the country is white. And your biggest thing is identity. You're going to hug every darkie that you can find. You're hugging every darkie that you can find because you don't want to deal with this topic of economics. That's why. Economics was taken off the table. So the biggest thing that you can come up with, identity. So you're going to make this guy seem to be this flaming racist that's going to eat puppies and kick babies and bash Hispanics and beat up Mexicans. Fair enough. But understand, if you're going to run that way, and you have a large part of the country that sees no issue with race at all, they're not going to get your issue. They're not going to get your issue. Like, you're running on this thing of identity where most of the country doesn't necessarily see identity as an issue. You're hugging identity for reasons that are not necessarily the best. That's my point. You shouldn't get behind it just because the motives aren't even right. It's like there's no integrity in this process at all. Ultimately, they're using racial politics because they don't want to necessarily deal with this issue of economics. They pretend, they're like, we have a big tent. We have a big tent. Yeah, part of that big tent are the plutocrats. Plutocrats, in order to gain more wealth, in order to gain more power, you're going to have to take that somewhere. Meaning you're going to either exploit workers or you're going to be against the systems of labor. Any strengthening of labor weakens the hand of plutocrats in our particular system. If you're going to add plutocrats to your quote-unquote big tent, who are you going to lean towards? Who are you going to lean towards? You're going to call yourself moderate. You're going to take a bunch of cash from these plutocrats, and you're going to whisper things in the ears of progressives, as if you're trying to be the mediator between these 2 points. I don't want a mediator. I don't want a mediator. I don't want this thing where there's a big tent. I want a tent that represents specific interests in regards to workers and the 99%. Hell, the bottom 90% of the population. That's what I want. That's what I want. There used to be a Democratic Party that did that. That is not our current Democratic Party. So, yeah. You shouldn't get behind it just because it doesn't represent the interests that you yourself say that you represent. Meaning, if you're calling yourself a progressive network, what the hell are you doing getting behind a party that has one segment after the next, I don't give a shit what they say, have gone after workers, or at the very least hasn't necessarily protected workers? You shouldn't support them just because they don't represent your interests. I understand Donald Trump is a fucking maniac. I understand Donald Trump is something to be concerned about. Fair enough. Fair enough. But let's be honest. If you're in a rigged process and you're continuously participating in the process and you know the process is rigged, that's on you. You're being complicit. You're being totally complicit. Now you have this buffoonish situation where you've supported Hillary Clinton and she lost anyway. She lost anyway. It's fucking amazing. Absolutely fucking amazing. They will whisper, Trump, 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 be afraid of Trump, Trump. They will scream to you. Yeah, they do. Jordan could write a TYT tell-all book. I hope he does. Oh, man. Eval and Garden Gnome. That will be fucking amazing. That would be amazing. On that one, I agree. On that one, I agree. On that one, I absolutely agree. That would be fucking amazing. Yeah, that would be fucking amazing. Yeah, like, so one of the conversations that the woman was saying, that the one who did the hit piece on Jordan, she noted, she was like, Jordan was saying how Cenk jerks off all the time. And I don't think he meant in the, I hope he didn't mean in the literal masturbatory way. I think he meant just fucking around. Or saying Nomika is being unethical because she's writing speeches for politicians and then covering those same politicians after she wrote the speech for the guy. It would be interesting. It would be interesting. If they piss him off, oh man, if they piss him off. James White, I just finished Overwatch and blam, here I am. Is everyone on some new psychedelic political drug that keeps us all from goddamn night? Okay, I'm taking a break. Good night. See y'all. What's happening, James? What's happening? I've watched your show a few times. I've seen it. I haven't logged in, but I've seen it. Dominique Buscemi. Yeah, everybody saying hi. Jamal's wife should write a tell-all book. Oh, you don't want... I could write the tell-all book. You don't need her to do it. Don't give me Manalog. That's funny. Manalog. I'm up in the morning before work. Yeah, we don't have to work today. We don't have to work today. So today is my day off. Yesterday was my day off too, but today is my day off. I do want to write a book, by the way. I couldn't figure out what to write it on, and I got to be honest. I spend more time doing videos because I enjoy doing videos more than I just do sitting down and actually writing. I ran everything from my travel experience, jumping around the country, jumping around the world. But the one thing that sticks in my mind of where there's enough will to write or enough energy behind it where I would sit down and write it is, it starts with no. The thing that I've bitched and moaned about, it starts with no. Making that argument and putting it into a book form. I'm off tomorrow as well. Damn it. You just suck me in. Yep, I have the day off. I'm smoking in a bowl and drinking coffee right on Garden Gnome. Yeah, we have cappuccino here. Red Economics. What's up, Stevie? Everybody's saying hi to Stevie. Stanley took Williams' last serious public conversation, public redemption concerning the death penalty, and I can remember. What about you guys? Stanley Toki Williams, right? Last serious public conversation on death on penalty of redemption. Right. You know, the redemption thing is fascinating to me, man. You're right, man. We don't really have public conversations. It's Donald Trump took a sip of water. Isn't this interesting? Why is it interesting? A human being took a sip of water. Who gives a shit? But the actual public conversations, like, that doesn't take place. Republicans pass a tax plan. Okay. Do we as a society have a concept of morality? And what does that mean from a societal standpoint, if it exists at all? And can you look at this tax plan, the things that he wants to do, and look at that as being in any way moral? Not even just moral. Take morality off the table. Is it in any way helpful to your particular society to give the rich more while taking away from everybody else? Yeah. Net neutrality. Yeah, I did a video on net neutrality. Net neutrality is problematic, man. This idea, yeah, this is an attack on free speech. That's my argument about net neutrality. It's an attack on free speech. Not to mention, nobody wants it. Like, you have 99% of the population that doesn't want it. A 0.001% of telecommunication companies are saying, yes, we love this because now we can charge higher fees. That's fucking awesome. What does that happen to everybody else? What does it do with everybody else? Yeah, flood the FCC with communications. I'm going to do another video on that. Somebody released information about emails and all this other stuff. I'm sorry, man. Emails is not enough. At a certain point, people need to start showing up at those locations in mass. Showing up in mass. Pitchforks in hand. I agree with Chris Hedges on this. People need to show up in mass. Like 2 million, 3 million people showing up at the building where the FCC exists with pitchforks, angry and screaming at those people who are going in to try to take away the internet in this way. One thing after the next. It's not enough for these marches all over the place. No, be focused and specific in the way that you're going after people if you're going to do a march. I don't think these marches work. That's people getting all the energies off. Be specific. Be specific. If there is a location where these people are doing that, show up at that specific location. Having 2 or 3 million people at the location, I would imagine give them pause. It would give them immense pause. Yeah, it's called justice. Agreed. Stephen Crowder and Ben Shapiro oppose net neutrality. Good. Good. Why I collect Jenks' old socks and other philosophical musings by Jamal Thomas. Oh, that's wrong, Garno. I have feelings, man. I have feelings. People need to get informed. That's not enough. I'm sorry, that's not enough. I've gotten into arguments with my mom on this point. I've gotten into arguments with my mom on this, where we're having this conversation and she's like, well, I didn't know. She's like, you know, she was be talking about Hillary Clinton. She's like, I didn't know those things. And it's like, but why didn't you know those things? And if I'm being honest and I'm being empathetic, there were times where I myself didn't know those things. I was telling myself I didn't know those things. It is difficult, and I don't even know if it's completely fair to expect the majority of the population to pay attention to what goes on in Washington when 40 to 50 hours a day is spent at some job doing alienated labor. Their life is spent on a hamster wheel. Do they have the space to look up and figure out they're being fucked, and that the reason they're on a hamster wheel in the first place is because of what takes place in Washington, meaning the policies that take place that create and craft our particular society? Whether it's fair or not, I agree that we need that to take place, but I don't know how to do that. Like, I don't know how to break people out of a bubble. I honestly don't. But among the people who are aware of this stuff, yeah, there needs to be some kind of, it's like a Justice League, like a political Justice League. I know this sounds fucking trivial as can be, but something that can harness the will and ire of a large group of people into a political mallet to hit at a very specific point. Meaning, if they're going to try to do something like that, have 1 million people show up at the FCC building where they're making that particular ruling and flood that office, flood that building. How many cops can you put into that particular space to keep those people out? How many cops can you round up? Can you suppress 1 million people coming to your particular place pissed off? I don't know. But at some point that needs to happen. Look, these speeches, these marches, they don't do squat. I'm sorry. They don't do squat. And these small sit-ins and stuff like that to try to draw attention, they don't do squat. They don't care. I'm sorry, they don't care. They don't care. They would care if it started to get personal and in their face. That's what I think. I think Jamal just read my comment wrong. Simple error. What? I read your comment wrong? What do you mean? Why is it good that Crowder and Shapiro oppose net neutrality? Why is it good that they oppose net neutrality? Oh, you mean they're for this ruling to take place? Maybe I misunderstood. They're pro net neutrality. That's what I took it as to be. Are you? Whatever you don't think that. What about chink in a thong? Whatever you do, don't think about chink in a thong. Lucius Zeus, why are you thinking about chink in a thong? Look, man, I've always said I'm a lib on this. Whatever your sexual proclivities are, God bless. God bless. God bless. Lucius Zeus dreams of jank in a thong. Howard Stern used to fight the FCC like Carlin tooth and nail. Now Howard Stern says nothing about it. Corrupt fuckers. Howard Stern is probably like 80 years old. Miss Howard. Again, to keep the internet open, we need the Supreme Court ruling. Otherwise, they would keep resurrecting anti-neutrality initiatives every time they would kill them. Look, you've heard me say before, anything that you get done, meaning from the left, plutocrats will be clawing at it to take it back. Why do you need a New Deal? Like, why are all of these political entities riding up to give a New Deal? The moment that the New Deal was signed, the moment that they started implementing those plans and initiatives, you had this snarling hand that reached out, trying to claw it back. It's an existential struggle in a sense. Yes, you need something that's... Incrementalism is not enough. It's not enough. Like, that needs to be a law. The internet is open, period. There is no hedge. There is no ambiguity about it. The internet... And look, and if you're going to have the power to get that, also this thing of corporations are not people. If you get one, you're probably going to have the strength to get the other. The question is, can you get that first one? Plutocrats, man. I don't understand why people think it's okay for people to have large amounts of cash in this way. In their heads, they think it's perfectly fine for somebody to have $40 billion and someone else to live on the street. That much inequity has consequences. One of those consequences is they're going to put their hands and their money into the political apparatus to get the things that they themselves want. Meaning, it doesn't matter that 99% of the population doesn't want the internet touched in this way. What only matters is who's putting money in their pockets. The only thing that opposes the fact that the people are putting money in their pockets is a massive amounts of pitchforks. You have dollars or you have pitchforks. Nobody wants this ruling. And yet, this ruling, for all intents and purposes, unless something changes, is going to take place. They're going to kill the internet as we know it. Free speech is going to die. And it's not free speech dying. That's too strong. It's just this thing of being able to control websites, like letting the ISP provider choose fast lanes and slow lanes just so they can milk more profits out of people. It's fucking amazing. Anybody who's okay with that should be voted out of office. And the fact that Donald Trump put somebody in that office that's willing to do that should be a red flag and a problem for the people who supported him. It's not going to be. You're still going to have 30% of people who think Donald Trump is fucking awesome, even though Donald Trump is doing really nasty fucking things in that office. It's like, come on. Come on. You'd have people who watch this show sometimes when I'm going after Democrats, or watch HA, or watch some of these other people who may go after Democrats. And the moment that you switch this thing to Donald Trump, oh, how dare he say something about Donald Trump? You can't have it both ways. If you're going to go after and get mad at Hillary Clinton for doing certain shit, then you should also go after Donald Trump when he's doing shit that's not in your best interest. It's just being honest. It's being fucking honest. The level of integrity. Exactly, we see it across the board. They have already made up half-ass attempts to resurrect TPP since Trump got in. It won't be the last time we see. Yeah, it's always that way. Targeted Task Force, Political Hammer. Oh, that's a good name. Political Hammer. Personally, I like the Justice League, but fair enough. I haven't seen the movie yet, so I may change that. The X-Men just sounds weird. The Justice League sounds more badass. League of Justice. I think they're scheduled protests at Verizon stores. Why the fuck are they protesting Verizon stores? Why are they protesting Verizon? Like, this is what I mean. This is... Why on earth are you... Yeah, this is fucking ridiculous. Alright. It's a waste of time. Protesting fucking Verizon. For that matter, protest KFC or McDonald's. I mean, what the fuck is that going to get them? They think that the owner of that particular store in some way has something to do with that particular thing that they're trying to get done through the FCC. No, that's a waste. That's a waste. You're just making lives harder for the workers who dragging their ass into that store to do their job. Your issue is the people at the FCC. Yes, it's the big wigs, the people at Verizon and these other telecommunications places who want it. But you understand you're in a capitalistic system. Come on, let's stop pretending as if this is not the case. Yes, they're going to want things that advantage themselves. Yes, they're going to want things to maximize their profits. Of course they're going to want those things. Why wouldn't they want those things? You told them that those things are perfectly okay, that any way that they accumulate wealth is good because wealth in and of itself is a justification of itself. That's what you've told them. Your society is built in that way. So why are you shocked that they're going to find inroads into the internet? Why? Why are you shocked? You shouldn't be shocked. Your issue here is with the governmental branch that is supposed to be guarding that. That's supposed to be the man on the wall for that all intents and purposes. You allowed private interests to gather like 40% of the country, like 1% of the country is owned by 40%, something like that. Some ridiculous amount. Even the majority of stocks, like 80 or 90% of the stock market is owned like by 1%. Some insane amount. You've allowed them to cord this off. And now that they've corded this off, they're trying to make inroads into other areas of your life. In this case, the internet. Your issue is allowing that to have taken place in the first place. Your issue is taking your eye off the ball, allowing your government to lurch forward and allow this much influence into your political apparatus. They've made inroads because you've allowed them to make inroads. You've allowed an economic system that is totally predatory and totally look for ways to advantage itself continuously. It just found, hey, this political apparatus that allows state force is a fucking awesome way to get more cash and more money and to beat the people down and exploit those people that much more. So that's what they did. Why are you protesting at a Verizon store? It's kind of what I mean, man. This energy is frittered away. It's fucking ridiculous. Fucking ridiculous. Yeah, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. Nothing will stop this. It's killing time. Dax Jacobson. Gardner, protests alone won't work. You need divestment, protests, and strikes. Yes. I just don't think it's enough. That's all. The Verizon store protests diversion instead of getting people to protest politicians at their offices. Eval 79, that is my point. Go to where they are. Go to where they are. Fuck the stores. Go to where they are. Jens Banslet, Claire McCaskill, Joe Manchin, Gary Peters, John Tester of Montana are Democrats gutting net neutrality, in case anyone is interested. Get Joe Manchin out of his seat. Get Joe Manchin out of his seat. Is TYT, if Paula Spurgeon loses, is TYT going to support Joe Manchin against the Republican? Inquiring minds want to know about that. Inquiring minds want to know about that. Please ask them. I'm curious. Yes, it's dumb to protest at someone's local outlet. Yeah, it's dumb. It's dumb. It's fucking dumb. It's fucking dumb. I think protests in all forms are needed. We have to apply pressure across the board, but still know what the main target is. It's not about, look, if we're playing chess, if I find a way on your queen side, let's say you castle to the king side. I'm sorry if people don't know what this means. You castle to the king side. You have two wings of the board in chess. You need to, technically three, you have to center, but let's say we're talking about the wings. If I find a way to make inroads into your queen side where I can move myself into your king side to eventually get your king, fair enough. Otherwise, I'm probably going to try to take your king out. Now, let's apply this to politics for the moment. You have people in the FCC who are making a choice to gut net neutrality. You have telecommunications companies that think this is just fucking awesome. Now, these telecommunications companies have stores all throughout the United States, but understand these things are not localized in the United States. These things are just kind of international companies at this point. They have no tether here. You're protesting at one of the arms, right? One of the tentacles. What do you think that's going to do? Like, what you think that they don't know that you're already angry about the fact that they're gutting this? You think they give a shit that you're concerned about it? They're going to make massive amounts of profit. They don't give a shit that you're angry about it. They don't care. And they have you over a barrel. Because ultimately, there is no other way for you to access the internet than going through them. You're over a fucking barrel. Your pants are down. So, yes, you can be mad all you want. You can protest all you want. What are you going to divest from? How are you going to do that particular divestment? Well, if you're going to protest, show up where they are. That's my point. If you're going to protest, show up where they are. Going to the stores is not going to matter. And yeah, divestment would be nice, but what do you divest in? What's your divestment? You're going to stop using the internet? You're going to stop? Like, come on. Yeah, they have you over a barrel. They have you over a barrel. Show up where they are. At a certain point, it's not this thing of we're just angry and we're going to protest. I honestly think that in many respects, protests are there purely just for the country to get off its aggrievement. It's like letting off steam. But letting off steam to what end? Maybe you shouldn't let off that steam. Maybe you should be pissed. Maybe you guys should get together and show up at the FCC headquarters. Maybe you should show up at the headquarters of the politicians who think this is fucking awesome. If you're going to apply pressure directly to the individuals involved in the process. That's my thought. Otherwise, they don't matter. They don't care. They don't care. If they think their physical being is at stake, maybe they would care. You have a lot of fucking people showing out at where they're making that vote, and they're like, oh my god, these people are angry and these people may come and get us. If you're faceless and nameless and there's something somewhere in the ether somewhere where people seem to be upset, who gives a shit? Who cares? Who cares? Yep, I don't care about HA stretching the narrative in regards to TYT. He never lies. If he did, he would be going too far. Who are you talking about, HA? Yeah, I don't. HA just dislikes TYT, so. It's like HA's reaching on some things, he reaches on a lot of things. When it comes to issues like Clinton and TYT, he may be completely right, but he's creating problems for our enemies. I'm protesting down at 7-Eleven because it's convenient. Nathan Richards, yeah, right, I know, right? I'm protesting outside of my house because, you know, why not? Why not? Some people protest Verizon stores and protesting outside my house. Most people don't know about it. Awareness is key. A store protest can build that for free. Hey, you, hi. That name is fucking hilarious. Okay, that's fair. Maybe I'm being too strong on this. That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. I just wonder what that amount is. And is that amount marginal? And I am almost inclined to believe that those people are not going to know what net neutrality is, because the name itself is not all that descriptive. It is descriptive, but you have to know a little bit more details. And I got to be honest, man, most people are in a bubble. Most people are in a bubble. They're unaware. They're fucking zombies. It's like The Walking Dead. Garden, exactly. Our enemies of our enemies can be useful. More often than not, local protests are useless. Yeah, Gardner, I agree. So HA, let's talk about HA for a moment. I don't want to. Yeah, let's talk about HA for a moment. I saw one of HA's videos where he was talking about essentially he said, everybody who thinks I'm biased, you can go fuck yourselves. I don't know if he's talking about me, because I made that video saying he's massively biased in the way he's going about Jordan. Look, don't believe me on this. Look back at any video that HA has ever made regarding Jordan and the conversations they've had after. Look at the hit videos that you've made on Jordan in that sense. And if you believe that the person who went after, let me say it this way. After Sanders, oh man, my wife hates it when I do this. I don't like give psychoanalysis in this way, but fuck it. When Sanders, when Clinton cheated Sanders, and when the Democratic Party cheated Sanders, HA went on a tear. And I don't know what his channel was before, but his channel became this, you know, like the refuge of the bitter enders. And I don't say that as a bad thing. I call myself a bitter ender also. So I don't mean this as a bad thing. I mean this is to some level of camaraderie thing. But he turned this show around in a way that went after Clinton. Now, I would imagine that a lot of that had to do with, holy shit, there's a lot of people who hate Clinton and they like my show, so I'm getting a massive ton of views and I'm going in the direction of my audience. I've tapped into a vein, and so I'm going to talk about Hillary Clinton all the time because these people hate Hillary Clinton. Fair enough. Whatever. To each his own. Ultimately, though, he still remained true to this thing of, I consider myself a progressive or a lefty. I think he got rid of the name, but I consider myself a lefty. I'm myself a Bernie Sanders supporter. I don't particularly like the things that Trump was doing, but Democrats are not your friends, and they're fucking corrupt. Yes, Republicans are corrupt also, but ultimately they didn't cheat Trump. Trump was able to win. They cheated Bernie. That's the party you need to pay attention to. That's the party that's the problem. That's the party I'm going to focus on. God bless. God bless. That's his channel. That's what he turned it to. Now, and look, there's no problem with that. People have given him shit for that. I don't think I've ever given him shit for that. It's his channel. He can do whatever he wants on that channel. And I don't think he's wrong in that very specific point. Democrats are the problem. I think in his mind it's, look, these guys cheated my guy. I am not letting this shit go. And there's a certain tenacity to HA's personality that's overt and it's apparent in when you look at his videos. It just is. I don't think that's up for question. That's not a bad thing at all. I've heard people say, I love the fact that he doesn't necessarily back down. He goes after people who go after him. God bless. That's a good trait, I think. To some degrees, that's a good trait. But there was enough anger and angst where, yeah, he pivoted the show. And once he tapped into that vein of people who dislike this, just completely hated and distrusted Hillary Clinton and Democrats, that's where he was. He's coasting to like 100,000 views in a very short time, or 100,000 subscribers. My point is, there is a tenacity that's associated with his personality. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that tenacity was on display when Jordan attacked him the first time and he went balls out after Jordan. I think that tenacity is on display when he went balls out after TYT. I think that tenacity is on display in his channel. I think that's a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. Fast forward to any moment or any opportunity that he has to hit TYT and Jordan, he takes the opportunity. It's not me. Look at his fucking videos. It's there. You can look at his catalog. And this comes up. And come on, he's basking in the guy's failure. I'm sorry. It's not. Now, you can say, this argument that he uses of some people are going to be biased against, you know, everybody has a bias. And so if somebody's biased against somebody else, they shouldn't talk about this person. Come on, that's different. That's a shitty argument. I'm sorry. There's a massive difference. I don't particularly like Trump, but I can give honest conversation about Trump, particularly when it's something that's somewhat of a flat fact. Did Trump get rid of the TPP? Yes, that's a flat fact. That's exactly what he did. So yes, I can give Trump credit for that. Do I like him? Fuck. No. My bias, the thing that I put my stake in the ground in, is this kind of humanistic thing, this emancipatory humanism. That's my bias. That's what I put my stake in the ground. Everything else is relative to that particular stake in the ground. Everybody knows that's where I put my stake in the ground. So yeah, in essence, I'm biased. If Nancy Pelosi does something good, can I say great job? Yes. If Chuck Schumer does something good, can I say good job? Yes. Do I like either of those people? No. No. Just because you have a bias doesn't necessarily mean you can't be honest about a situation. But having a bias does make it more likely that that bias can be on display. And I'm making this point that yes, that particular bias is on display when you're basking in the guy's failure and you're taking a very particular perspective based upon what it seems to be that particular bias. So yeah, it's fucking true. It's what it is. HA is looking bad on this one. Yeah, he is. Dominique Buscelli. I agree. I agree. Chad Wilson, exactly. HA wouldn't be hard to take down a debate if Ron really wanted to call out the pettiness. I feel like he's taking cheap shots rather than open uppercut. Jordan insulted HA, acted like he didn't, even though HA ergo schadenfreude, Jan manslaughter. Oh, no, I agree. When Jordan attacked HA, I made a video saying Jordan had lost his fucking mind and that he was way off the reservation. I got a lot of views on that because it was just kind of back and forth. In fact, I think that's how I met Tim Black. I don't have a dog in the hunt. I think the way I feel is Jordan was the first reporter, lefty reporter, like in TYT, this new framework of reporter of sorts. And if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't know anything about Standing Rock. That's the first point. That part by itself is mind-blowing. The Ohio crisis also. Like, so he did good work. So don't misunderstand me. Having him fired and having him gotten out the way. And you think to yourself, this guy is losing his job, he's losing his career. I think to myself, what would I feel like if I lost my job? Yeah, man, it's not something where it's like I'm joyous about this guy's misery. So yeah, it seems somewhat petty. It's one thing if you have a feud online. You and I are going back and forth, and we have ideas, and we're bitching about something. But at the point where it affects my physical being, where my ability to access resources, my ability to access goods and services, my ability to live, it's different. It's just different. It's a different realm of existence. It feels petty to go after him in this way, in this particular topic. It's a rape allegation. And it's a rape allegation that I gotta be honest, I heard her story. I heard all of the information associated with this particular thing, and I thought, this is not rape. This woman, even by her own conversation, I know people hate it when I say this, but even in her own dialogue, the conversation she was having with Tim Black, she looked back on it and said, I think I was raped. In the moment, I made the decision, I was an adult, I did blah, 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 and then after I lost my marriage, after I realized I made a mistake, I look back on that moment and I change. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Now, when you look at all of the information, the main thing that you get out this, the one persistent piece of data that comes out, was Jordan was a horn dog. Like, he might have been overly inappropriate, at least from the perspective of other people around him that weren't okay with it from a sexual standpoint. That seems to be the prevailing wind. Meaning one person after the next who comes forward says something similar. Fair enough. I don't know if it's true, but that's what they say. But come on, that's a big leap to sexual abuse and rape. That's all. It just feels gross to attack him and be petty in this particular way, when it is very well known that A, you have a tendency towards tenacity, B, you have a tendency to not let shit go, meaning you're going after the guy relentlessly, and C, he's in a bad way, and it seems like you're basking in the fact that he's in a bad way. Now, if you want to say you're not biased on this, okay, fair enough. Look, I would say you look at your own catalog, or you have other people look at your catalog and they can come to their own conclusion. My conclusion is you're massively biased on this. That's my conclusion. That's not necessarily good or bad. It's your channel. You do whatever the fuck you want on your channel. But come on, let's be honest. Let's be honest. Let's be very honest. I think Jordan does the right reporting for the wrong reasons. He's definitely out to make a name for himself. Everybody is. You don't have a choice, right, in economics. I mean, come on, Stevie. Let's be fair. Your job as a reporter to go out and to get stories and everything else. You're also stuck in a system where you need to make your ends. You have ends to meet. You have to have shelter over your head, food on the table. And beyond that, you understand, in a job, people consider their job to some degree their identity. Meaning, yes, you want to do good and you want to have accolades. You want to make a name for yourself or whatever you do. It doesn't matter what it is. You can't necessarily fault him for wanting to make a name for himself. You fault him for being a horn dog. That's what you fault him for. HA is not objective when it comes to a number of issues. No, he's not. Chad Wilson, HA is in love with Tim Black too. Like it's almost uncomfortable. Chad Wilson, yeah, that's funny. They're boys. They're friends. They're friends. They're bromance. I'm not gonna get on the phone with bromance. Stevie, some good work came out of Jordan's efforts at TYT. Agreed. Didn't her husband convince her that she was raped? Yeah, something like that. Yeah. That's what I mean. It was after the fact. It was, I had an orgy, and look, women, some people hate it. A woman sent me a very long, respectful message on Facebook that she greatly disliked my coverage of that particular thing because she believed that it was rape and that me saying an orgy was somehow belittling the fact that I did not think it was rape. There's nothing wrong with having an orgy, by the way. Somebody said we should make a video of Jamal saying he's pro-orgy. That's funny. The reason I say that is I don't like the attitude that this country has towards sex as opposed to this attitude the country has towards violence. Like, we can watch a movie where John Wick kills like 100, 200 people and be perfectly okay with it. John Wick is still a good fucking guy. But when Captain Kirk is about to make out, you see him make out and it cuts to something else. We don't show Captain Kirk having sex. Now, it's not that I want to see Captain Kirk having sex. I'm just making a point that in our movies and everything else, sex is treated completely different than violence. Even in our society, sex is treated completely different than violence. The story, the salaciousness of the story, has to do with the way we ourselves perceive sex as if it's some forbidden and wrong thing. Now, I don't know the psychology of the woman who's in question. I would imagine she made a bad choice. Fair enough. If you're getting eaten out by another woman and a guy wakes up and that guy joins in, you were already engaged in sexual activity. Was the guy to believe that at some point between getting eaten out and him joining in that you weren't on board with this? Like, yeah, I call it an orgy because that's what it sounds like. It sounds like a bunch of people getting it on. If she's going to look back after the fact and say she was raped, then anybody can look back after the fact and say, I retroactively say no. It's like, come on. Nothing wrong with making a name for yourself so as long as it's done with the truth. Agreed, Red. Yeah, agreed, Stevie. Puritan legacy is too strong. Apple S, yes, agreed. It is. Gardner McGinn, if anyone was raped by her own account, it wasn't Jordan, it was the girl and possibly the other dude. Yeah, agreed. Because she's saying that she wasn't on board, but the person who started was the other female. The female was an aggressive party in this. Jordan, by her own account, was asleep. He was asleep. It was a female. It was that other woman. It was the other woman. She's awesome. The other woman, look, I heard her account of this and she's like, yeah, I go both ways. There's no shame in that. I like my thing. And I'm like, fucking hey, good on you. They were wasted. I mean, come on. All of them were wasted. She was 21 years old. She was also wasted. It's like, how are you... If Jordan was also wasted and she was wasted, how are you saying that Jordan is at fault when everybody is in the room is wasted? Where does consent go when everybody in the room is wasted and hammered off their ass? Yeah, it's just weird. Steve, it sounds like she had some sort of weird cult going on, paid for with the TYT credit card. Chad Wilson, Carla let her eat her out and said to Ty. Carla obviously had something for Jordan. Yeah, she did. I think she did too. Captain Obvious, it did sounded like a bunch of drunk fools getting it on. That's what it sounded like to me. That's what it sounded like to me. Everybody's hammered. Everybody's wasted. Everybody's randy. We're all adults. We're all human beings. We don't have to speak of this tomorrow. Let's have some fun. Let's have some fun. It's like putting down the blinds, shutting the door, signing a pact. We would never speak of this again. Let's get it on. Let's get it on. Nothing should be said of this moment. She's not awesome, man. That other chick is happy. Did you see the Claudia interview? I did see the Claudia interview. Is a harpy. Oh. She's sexually free. I like it. I like it. I totally like it. Right economics. Yeah, it's weird that Jordan is catching such blame. Hell, I didn't even catch it at first. I didn't either. Like, yeah, the other woman is the one that started the sexual encounter. You're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. Kind of made up why she got naked and went into Jordan's bed when he was asleep. It happens. Jordan just found him some yes men. That's who surrounded himself with. Chad Wilson. Stevie, the Claudia interview was terrible. You thought it was terrible? I thought the Claudia interview was good, actually. I mean, the part I saw. Captain Obvious, amen. Agreed, Stevie. Why Claudia even do that? I did think it was weird that Claudia, her channel, Cabin Talk, it's like, what does this have to do with... Yeah, I thought that was weird that she was having it, but I thought the interview was fine. I don't see the problem with the interview. Can you guys get over this Jordan Sheridan shit by December 1st and get out of your system? Jay Scott, thank you. We got real shit to worry about, Jay Scott. I called for you, Jay Scott, and said, where's Jay Scott? Because these people brought up Jordan Sheridan. I thought Jay Scott would police the message board on this. You dropped the ball, Jay Scott. You dropped the ball. Jeremy, we stopped talking about it. You vanished. Right. We mentioned it, and you come back. Yeah. Agreed, Gardner. That's his fault. That's his fault. We're throwing him under the bus on this. Agreed. She kept saying she had the right to do what she wants with her body. That's true. Nobody said she didn't. What she said was she's not entitled to somebody else's body. I don't know what that means. She said, well, she's not entitled to somebody else's body. Well, yeah, but if you're in a hot tub. I'm trying to paint the scene because I'm trying to nail it down, so, at least in my head, on how I think events took place. Based on my own experiences of being wasted with a bunch of people in the room and everybody's getting randy. I've never had an orgy, by the way. I'm just saying. I would be proud if I did, I think. Yeah, I think I would be proud if I did. I was invited to one, but I was in a relationship and chose not to go. That sounds... you're talking about regrets. So, I had a friend of mine. I mentioned before, the woman who I said would stab me if she met me today or saw me today. She pissed off at me, I think. She was bi. She went both ways. And one day she calls me and she says, hey, I want you to come over. It's like, what do you mean come over? I want you to come over. I have a friend over. I want you to come over. And it's like, yeah, well, why? I mean, I don't understand why. And she's like, I have a friend over. I would like you to come over. And I was like, a friend? What kind of friend are you talking about? And as she gets into the conversation, she finally explains it. I'm like, okay. Now, my reasoning for saying no, there were two reasons. One reason I'm ashamed of, the other reason is the right reason. One, I felt somewhat self-conscious in this whole thing. What's her name? Let's call her Miss Aquarius. Her and I were not necessarily on the best of terms at this point. Things had gotten extraordinarily weird between us. Also, I was talking to somebody that I wasn't necessarily formally in a relationship in, but was going to be in a relationship in. And her and I were together for like 2 years. A horrible fucking relationship. Her and I were together for like 2 years. I turned it down. So, I don't say this from the perspective of being there. I say this from the perspective of, in my head, what might have taken place. All of you are together. All of you are hammered off your ass. You guys are sitting in a hot tub. You guys are just talking. All of you reasonably look decent. You guys are talking. You guys have just finished the story. You guys are euphoric. You just finished the story. Yes, the story is done. This is our last day in town. Let's have some fun. Let's get some drinks. Jordan's horn dog. Ty's a red-blooded male. He's an American. He's a guy. The other woman who's in a hot tub she's bi and she's sexually free. And you may make the case sexually aggressive. And then there's the aforementioned dandelion, Carly Hammond. Now, for whatever reason, Hammond was in that hot tub. Hammond was drinking. Hammond was on board with us at some point. Now, she might have said, okay, I don't want to do this at some point. But at this moment, she is on board by her own testimony. She's there. She's with them. And she's getting drunk just like everybody else. And she's 21 years old. Everybody's there on their own volition. Nobody is being forced. The bi chick gets frisky. She gets frisky. And somewhere along the way, she's having some kind of sexual relations with Carly. Now, if you want to say that somebody was assaulted, it looks like that's where you start. I don't know how Jordan comes into this at this point. Jordan is asleep. He's not a part of this. Ty gets involved. You have 3 people getting it on. At some point, the frisky bi chick gets up and says, hey, Jordan, you want some of this? You're missing out. You're missing out. Get involved. We're having an orgy. Come on. Just get it going. And this is kind of how things break off. Now, I agree with Garnome. I think he said it. If any aggression is to be had, wouldn't that be the first woman? I don't know her name. The bi one. The frisky bi one. Wouldn't it be her? Like, I don't know how Jordan gets involved in this. Now, it makes sense that if she had a thing for Jordan and she felt aggrieved in some way by the relationship falling apart, that would make sense. Where she focused it on him, because there was a part of Tim Black interview where she was like, I felt jealous because he was trying to talk to all these other women. That may be true. That may be true. That may be honesty. I was jealous. Tim Black was like, why were you jealous? You just said he raped you. Come on. Come on, be fair. J.H. Scott, Jordan Sheridan is not my leader. I'm not saying he's your leader. I'm saying you're supposed to police this board. Jinho Choi, Carla made a bad life choice. Jamal, you're right, brother. I think I am right. I think I'm right. Gardno. But yeah, of course I'm saying it. I think it's right. Just by definition. Gardno, hey, I thought about that too. It makes the whole situation even more depraved. Flint water situation, having sex in Flint hot tub before people can get proper drinking water. Oh, no. Oh, that's funny and fucked up and ironic. Sex is not a bad thing, dude. Like, if it's like you're saying they shouldn't have fun while doing a story. Like, they should just be these minister priests of sorts that should ignore their physical needs and just kind of go about their way. I would argue that sex is a need. I would argue sex is a need. It's something you need to get your rocks off sometimes. It is what it is. I would also argue that physical experience and physical expression is not a bad thing, as long as everybody's on board with that physical expression. Them being in a jacuzzi when Flint doesn't have water, ha ha ha, that's funny. That's funny. It's not fucked up, it's funny, it's not ironic. Captain Obvious, I only care about the representative that might represent me. Jordan is the fall guy who had the most to lose. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, agreed. Agreed. Jeremy, you worship Jordan, that's why you get pissed when we discuss him. Is that what it is? Is that what it is? Nikki King, plus she had to come up with a good story to save her marriage. Did she save her marriage? Did she save her marriage? Garnome, I'm not saying sex is bad at all, but the depraved irony is just too much. That's funny. Sex is a great thing, Captain Obvious. Yes, sex is a quote-unquote great thing. He's put it in caps. Stevie, I went to a party turned orgy once. Nice for you, Stevie. Good on you. Apparently, I was invited to the party, but not the orgy. Oh, so I just watched TV while everybody else went off to screw. Are you shitting me? Are you shitting? Oh, Stevie, that sucks. That sucks. That sucks. That's wrong. They should have invited you in, man. That's wrong. You can't invite somebody to the party but not to the orgy. They would feel left out. That's fucked up. Sex is the most fun one can have without laughing. Jinho Choi. You can do both. You can have sex and laugh. I think sex is awesome when you're laughing. It depends on the situation. I don't want her laughing. Both of us can laugh. That contaminated water was polluted by the Russians. Fucking Russians. Chad Wilson, yeah, Carly is back with her husband, and that's why I felt like she was doing it. Oh, I see, yeah. I need to save my marriage. What do I need to say to save my marriage? I was raped. But then the moment that you recount the story, it's like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound like rape at all. It sounds like you guys were having fun, getting it on. Yeah, Red Economics, that sucks, man. I'm sorry. Nobody wants to be excluded in that way. That's fucked up. Man, I would just have left and tried to get a hookup at a bar. I would have just tried to join in. Yeah, I don't want her laughing, Gardner. No. Yeah, Stevie. You should just try to join in. I mean, it's unfair them excluding you in that way. It's unfair them excluding you in that way. Yeah, Gardner, I don't want her laughing. Like, when my wife and I plan around sometimes, yeah, you're having fun, you're joking and laughing and everything else. I can't remember the comedian, but he was like, when the clothes come off, that's when the laughing stops. It's like, I don't fucking laugh at that point. You can laugh afterwards. You can laugh if we're joking around. You can laugh if we're doing some kind of BDSM stuff where something funny just comes up. Well, whatever. But if we're being serious, then nah, I don't want her laughing. That means you're doing something wrong. You're invited to my orgy, Stevie. Friendship. I don't want to say that, Jay. I would have felt that was somewhat sexist. It seems like that was the natural response. Like, if I had an orgy, Stevie, you're perfectly invited to this particular orgy. That seems like the natural response to what you said, but I wasn't going to go there. I'll let you stay with that. Oh, thanks, Jay. You're good people. Gardnome is not. Yeah, Gardnome is not invited. Gardnome is not invited. Redneck, can I invite you to my house? Hey, you hot? Yeah. Everybody's gonna say yeah. Everybody's gonna invite you to their orgy. Everybody's gonna invite you at this point. You've opened yourself to that particular line of conversation. I feel bad for her husband. I feel bad for her. I feel bad for her too. Like, think about the situation where, yeah, I feel bad for her, man. I feel bad for her. You're 21 years old. You're trying to be a journalist. You feel like, oh my God, I am in the vein of my career. This is what I want to do with my life. This guy is doing what I want to do with my life. And for whatever reason, you are, maybe you call it infatuation. Maybe you call it, you might feel some way for him because you see him on TV, whatever. You like the guy. You like him. You end up having a sexual encounter with that particular guy, and you get weirded out somewhere along the way. But there seemed to be something going on. It didn't seem like, oh my God, this was one off, and all of a sudden it stopped. It felt like, after that, to pay an airline ticket in order to go to New York to be around Jordan, and then get mad when he's looking at other women. Him looking at other women that he's trying to bring on for the reporting thing by itself is a little troubling, a little strange. It's him being a guy that goes to the horn dog thing. I'm more so interested in her response to that, her being mad at that. That's all. Yeah, I feel bad for her. I feel bad for her. People fuck up in their lives. Holodeck orgies. Oh, that's gonna be gross. That's gonna be gross. Unless they can get the semen out of the machine, and oh, that's gross. People slipping and sliding in the holodeck. Quark on so if you notice on the Next Generation, they never really went there. Like, that's not something they brought up. Captain Obvious, what about Jordan's next move? I hope he goes back to reporting. I think many of the locations he was getting to, he was using a TYT credit card to do it. And of course you can use a TYT politics platform in order to do it. So, him starting, he was already at like 200,000 views or some ridiculous amount just by being associated with TYT. Everybody knows who he is now. Would that translate to him getting those views again? I don't know. Maybe. Gardnome, again, all the people involved seem fucked up. I saw an HA with this crazy swan woman. She seemed unhinged. That's funny. Yeah, I'm done with the George stories until something else comes up. If he, I gotta be honest. I see, I've done videos where I've talked about the interplay of the political system. And there have been videos where there's this interplay between politics and philosophy, this interplay between like the left and right divide, how those things, or even the Democratic Party, how it functions in regards to its politics. How these two parties, kind of, it's almost like a meta-narrative or a meta gameplay that these two parties end up with, that we consider the base of the parties, if that makes sense. So the Republican Party says we care about tax cuts. The other party says, I don't know what the other party says anymore. They used to say workers. That's meta. That's not necessarily what they do in brass tacks when it gets down to real world. Political speech, for the most part, is just language that they use to obfuscate what they're actually doing. It's a difference in those things. I thought that the analysis on those videos were fucking amazing. And I look back at those videos like, yes, this is a really good video. Those videos get little to no views. You talk about Jordan having an orgy in a hot tub and somebody crying rape, and oh man, that video goes through the roof. And it's like, oh, it's like, fuck. it's not that I don't appreciate the subscribers and everything else. I do like the fact that those people have latched on and like what the content is. I do like that. I think it's like, what do you want to be known for? Like, I did this Loretta Lynch video when I first started, and that was the first video that I did that did gangbusters. They're fucking amazing. And based on the context of the individual who was looking at that video, that person will see that video in a very particular light. And you had a lot of people who understood what I was saying, fully got it. You know, if like a lefty fully understood my point in that, because that's the way they felt, just even during the Obama administration. But some on the right looked at that through a cultural and a racial context. And in their mind, oh, we have a black guy attacking a black woman that was part of the Obama administration, a black presidency. Oh, this is awesome. I love this. Keep at it, brother. And it's like, oh, this has nothing to do with race. This has everything to do with this woman is being completely unhinged for political reasons. And you guys are missing the point. Yeah, it's you never know what video is going to take off. You never know how people are going to view your content, because ultimately, regardless of what you try to espouse, it's going to take it through their own lens. It's weird, strange. I don't even know how you go against it. Out of 3 or 4 H.A. Goodman subscribers on the Trump train, yeah. I suspect that's why he stopped calling himself a progressive. Rednecknomics. Hopefully I can start in the new few weeks, Jake. Morgantown, West Virginia. I wonder if you could do any of them. Jake Smith. What is this? Steve, are you doing any canvassing for Paula? Ooh, very cool. You're doing canvassing for Paula. Oh, Paula Swearengin. Very nice. Very nice. That's just the way it works, man. I doubt if you would be known for your Jordan stories. There are a million of them now. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Of dying anonymity. Gino, if it goes to show that going after the Clinton corruption will get you supporters of the right. Yeah, it does. You're right, Chad. Yeah, you know, that was something I understood, right? Yeah, that was one of those things. Paying attention to some of the people when I started. So when I first started, I would pay attention to H.A. to some degree because he was doing content on Sanders and the campaign. He was covering that. I would pay attention to TYT because they were doing great with the Bernie primaries and stuff. Jimmy Dore, I always loved Jimmy Dore. He was fucking hilarious. Wait, that's not true, actually. When Jimmy Dore first started, I don't think I liked Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore came into his own for me once he started defining himself as a separate and distinct thing from TYT. I started to like him from that. And of course, there's news shows. Like news shows, philosophy shows, that type of stuff. I realized, how can I say this? I realized that you're constructing your audience, if that makes sense. It's like, it's not just, you can do this one or two ways, and maybe even 3. You can say, I'm going to be me, I'm going to be ferociously me, I don't give a shit who watch. If I am the only person screaming in the forest, and I'm going to be a lone person screaming in the forest at the top of my lungs, I'm going to be me. I'm going to do me. If I get 1,000 likes on a particular video, I am going to do me. The other path is, there are people who like X, so I'm going to do X. Now, if you're just being you, and you're ferociously you, the people who come around you are the people who actually like you for being you. If something comes up, it's still going to stay there because ultimately they recognize it's just you as being you. If you are being somebody else, and if you're going with this idea of I am pulling on a certain demographic onto my channel, if you ever tacked back to who you are, will those people stay? And that's the question I don't know. And that's the question I didn't necessarily want to answer. Like that, I didn't even want the conflict. Like if you're, you know, you're going after Clinton completely, Sanders, let's say Sanders wins in 2020. Do those people stay with you when you go after Clinton? Or do those people just say, okay, fuck this, I don't want to be a part of this? Because ultimately, I liked it when you were attacking Clinton. I don't necessarily like it that you're backing Sanders. I don't know. I didn't necessarily want to take that chance. So ultimately, I just said, I'm going to be me and ferociously me and do the content that I myself like. So I saw being able to watch HA when his comment overall content was overwhelmingly being overtaken by the mostly far right wing and H. Hardbass's channel. Yeah. Yeah, Jimmy Choi. Jimmy calls himself a progressive, not a liberal. This is one many enthusiastic fans. Yeah, I don't call myself a liberal. But these terms are so slippery. It's like, fucking slippery. He calls himself a progressive. I would argue he's probably just a socialist. And I would even argue, yeah, it calls himself progressive. People just call themselves sorts of names to try to designate how they are along the spectrum. Yeah, man, I think HA's content does that because he understands that the Democratic Party is a problem the way it is. It's part of my strategy of saying no assumes that Democrats will lose. But part of that saying no is because you want them to some degree lose. The crisis, the tension that you yourself have of trying to transform that party is increased. It's like the screws are tightened when they lose or when there's a threat of losing. That threat is bolstered, however, when they actually lose. So he's not wrong on this. That being said, Republicans are batshit crazy. And the last thing I'm going to do is try to bolster the right wing in my dialogue. I'm going to go after both. Both are the problem. Sometimes going after one makes the other looks better, and that's not the case. It's not the case. Chad Wilson, I think progressive is the bird, not left or right wing. I think progressive is the bird. I don't know what that means. Tabitha Enriquez, what made you start your channel? Was it a specific news story? No, I was angry. That one made me start my channel. I was angry. Like I was getting really annoyed at what was taking place in regards to politics. And nobody around me cared. Like, that's a weird place to be in. It's like you were experiencing reality in a way that's absolutely true. That's absolutely real from our standpoint. It's physical boundary reality. And other people are completely unaware of what's going on around them. They're in their bubble. I just need to earn money. I just need to earn money. I just need to take care of my kid. I just need to do this, do that, whatever. It's like ridiculous stuff. And it's like you understand that there's a larger reality afoot, and that larger reality does affect you. It does adversely affect you. They never had questions about why the economic system was this way. They didn't have questions about why society was arranged this way. They had no questions at all. From their standpoint, this was created by God, and they just went along the lines like little programs, believing in the process that they have free will, even though they were acting completely like robots. There was no talking to them. There was no point. They didn't get it. It was over their heads. You talk to Clinton supporters, and those people are insane. Those people are absolutely insane. You talk to, family. I may talk to my mom about it. My mom could have these conversations. I don't know if she's having the conversations just because I'm her son, or if because she's interested, or some combination of both. I would imagine that sometimes she would get tired of it, but ultimately my mom would be fascinated by these conversations to some degree, because she would be like, I had no idea this was happening. I had no idea this was true. Like you say, TPP, what? What's the TPP? What's the Trans-Pacific Partnership? And you gotta make this case like, I understand you like Obama, but why do you like Obama? Like, what's there? What's the thing? What's the definitive thing that you're using to make that case that you like Obama, that he's on your side and he's working in your best interests? And you bring up stuff like, you understand, he's trying to give over the United States sovereignty to multinational corporations. You get that, right? Like how do you reconcile this guy called himself this quote-unquote progressive president, who at other times said he would be considered a Republican, or how do you reconcile the things that he's doing in that office, giving 95% of the wealth to the top 1%, expanding these wars into 7 or 8 other countries? How do you reconcile this person with the things that he said on the campaign trail, or the perspective that he tried to give on the campaign trail? Do you believe that it is a good thing to hand over United States sovereignty to multinational corporations? Do you believe that is good? And if you don't believe that is good, why do you support Obama in this way? They're oblivious. They're fucking oblivious. And I would get pissed off, and I started doing these videos just kind of with my camera in the car while I was driving to work. And I think it would be me just screaming about shit that was going on. And like anybody else, like any kid that starts to drive, you start to manipulate the way you process and expend energy, meaning you don't necessarily have a lead foot anymore. You put your foot on the wheel, to go certain speeds that you're trying to go, to trying to accomplish whatever you're trying to accomplish. And one thing led to the next. Eventually I was like, hey, how can I perfect the process and make the process better? So then it was, okay, let me get a video camera. All right, let me get a real camera. All right, that didn't work. Let me get this. Let me get that. Let me try to get a mic. Okay, I need a pop filter for the mic. My wife comes in one day and says, hey, I found this awesome light source. And so then she bought this like photographer's light source that you can use for the room. It was one thing after the next. And ultimately, I have opinions on pretty much everything. Now, those opinions aren't, I try to make a distinction between how I feel versus what I think versus what I know. Don't know much. I would say most of the things that's outside of us are ambiguous, like as a flat fact, no. Evidence, yes. Yes. And opinions on that evidence, yes. And trying to be consistent in how I base my arguments. Like my grounding in this has nothing to do with the parties. It has nothing to do with the society itself. It has everything to do with, well, I guess it does, because you're going to take certain traits from your society, but a humanistic point of view of the world. Why do people need to suffer? And is it possible to craft a world, meaning how we arrange ourselves, in a way that doesn't necessarily involve poverty and crime and corruption and stuff like that? I would make the case that capitalism ultimately is just a software program for human beings. It's like a three-dimensional software program. You can call it a thought form of sorts that people have aligned themselves around and people consider to be this kind of real, tangible thing. It becomes real and tangible only because people believe it's real and tangible, but they consider it that way. So much so they consider it to be just, this is just the normal way of being. It's not the normal way of being. It's not anything. Just a thought form. That thought form can change. Somebody having $40 billion and someone else living on the street, that's a thought form. That's just the way people perceive the world and the things that they themselves allow. That can change. That changes when people say that that's unacceptable. My goal in the channel was kind of, is there any capacity whatsoever to push the narrative that A, that's unacceptable, and B, this changes when we ourselves decide that it changes. That was the reason I started my channel. That's essentially what it evolved to. That, of course, you can't necessarily, I get bored saying the same thing over and over and over again. So alright, my channel is just going to be an expression of who I am. Meaning, yeah, I like comic books. I like the themes that comic books hit. I like sci-fi movies. I like the themes that they hit. I like investigating weird and interesting things. And I love politics. So it's going to be some combination of all those. That's how I started. Let's see. Tabitha, he started it because Putin paid him to do so. No one of them damn bots matter one. God damn it, Gordon. You can't reveal my secrets, man. You can't reveal my secrets. When I get that check from Russia, when Putin sends me that check, oh, the world will be perfectly fine. Yeah. It's like, what does, yeah. If Putin wants to pay me off, Putin can pay me off. Yes. Send me a check. Chad Wilson, the eagle. If we're weighing down the wings of the bird can't fly, the progressives are looking for the big picture rather than playing two-party politics. Yeah, yes. Yeah, but progressives are also just people. Like, progressives are susceptible to the same shit that the other parties are susceptible to. What are you willing to do to get the world that you want? Like, that's ultimately what you end up going towards. And what do you believe the world is capable of being? Some of these guys who are, markets over people and all this other stuff, from Obama's standpoint, Obamacare was the best that people could get. That's the best you can get. That's what Obama essentially was saying. The Democratic Party essentially said, Obamacare is the best you can get. You should be happy and thankful that 20 million people still don't have health care and that your rates are spiking through the roof. All I'm saying is people shouldn't accept it. People shouldn't accept it. There's people in this country have began and for whatever reason have decided to accept miserable things. That's all. That's all I mean. Jake Smith. I get trolled on Twitter. Draft Tulsi from Hillary and Obama worshippers who claim Tulsi is working with Assad to gas children in Syria. Those people are fucking idiots. Right in economics. Wow, that level of misinformation is just sad. Yeah, those people are fucking idiots. Got it, comrade. To be the Enriquez. Captain Obvious. Clinton supporters can literally convince someone of the value of voting for the lesser concentration camps like Sam Cedar. Yeah, you saw that. I did that video. Yeah, you might have got that video from me. He's like, if I can't do his voice, but he was like, if one of the candidates is going to do less concentration camps, then yes, I would vote for that candidate. And it is immoral for you to say that. I mean, it's like, come on, dude. You've just said you're vote for the candidate who's going to build lesser concentration camps. In the next election, the guy says he's going to one less concentration camp. Sam Seder will vote for that guy. In the next election, the guy says, I won't make any other camps into concentration camps. I'm just going to keep the concentration camps that we currently have. Sam Seder's going to vote for that guy. At what point do you get to the point of saying, okay, the guy who said he's going to build less concentration camps is not living up to his philosophical best interest, meaning he is supposed to be something fundamentally different. And me voting for that guy gives that guy a complete pass in regards to what he himself is supposed to be. If both of them are going to build concentration camps, I want this guy to not build concentration camps, meaning he's not going to get my support. If he loses, and if he continues to lose, at some point maybe he will realize that the public don't want him to build concentration camps. You would get less and less people voting, continuously less and less people voting. And the moment that he says, wait a minute, I don't want to build concentration camps anymore, those people who don't want concentration camps will spring to his side and vote for that person. Now, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, they may not necessarily be building concentration camps, but both parties are doing bad shit. And one party is not living up to what it's supposed to live up to. You can be complicit. You can be complicit. And you can continuously say, I don't care what you do to me. You can beat me, slap me, kick me, throw me down the stairs. You can fornicate. You can do bad things. I will be here in the morning. I, Sam Seder, will be here in the morning. I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. Sam Seder's walking around with a black eye talking about you ran into a door. No, you just was mistreated by the Democratic Party and you just don't want to leave. That's what it boils down to. It's embarrassing to say that you'll vote for somebody who's okay with concentration camps. Yeah. To be that he's planning on putting a picture of Mao on the wall behind his right shoulder. Well, you should have said Stalin. Stalin would have been funnier. Stalin would have been funny. Uncle Joe. Man of Steel. Man of Steel murdering like 20 million of his own people. I don't think it's misinformation. I think they demonize anyone who disagrees with their idols. No, that is misinformation, dude. Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, do you believe, is it true that Tulsi is killing kids in Syria? The answer is no. If they're saying that, then that's misinformation. They're fucking lying. They're lying because they want to smear and attack somebody who's against murdering other people. Meaning, it's saying that you don't want the United States investing in terrorists to go and undermine the Syrian government. It's not the same thing as saying Assad is a great fucking guy. It's saying that we don't want our troops, we don't want our resources being invested into undermining another government. If that government, if the people of that country want that government to change, that is the responsibility of the people of that government, not us. It's not our fucking responsibility. When they were talking about the soldier in Niger, and the soldier gets killed, and nobody asks the question, why the fuck are we in Niger? Why are we in Niger? Why are we there? That seems to be an operative question. I understand that you want to ask this question of why the soldier got killed, and I understand people being hurt and upset. But was that soldier there murdering other people? And was he killed in response to something that they themselves did, or something that we did in this particular world, in the way that we go into other countries and kill a lot of people, including civilians? Those are not the questions of debate that come up. That's off the table. The only thing that gets brought up is one of the troops got killed in Niger. That's it. That's the level of debate. That's the level of conversation. Tulsi Gabbard making this point of we should not have our troops there. We should not be giving resources to terrorists to undermine another sovereign state. While at the same time throwing a hissy fit that Russia supposedly paid $150,000 in Facebook ads to undermine the election of Hillary fucking Clinton. You shitting me? That this is the level of debate that we've devolved into in this particular country because we don't want to take responsibility for the failures and fuck-ups that we ourselves have ensconced in our democracy, our so-called republic. It's fucking amazing. It's fucking amazing. It's fucking aggravating to me that this is the level of debate. Any real conversation about something to drive your country forward in a better direction is off the table. It gets drowned out by the bullshit ridiculousness. By bullshit and ridiculousness. Your world doesn't have to be this way. This is my point. This is why I made my channel. It does not have to be this way. This is not... Human nature is malleable. That's what I'm saying. Human nature is malleable. We've contorted ourselves in ways where human beings have become tools for particular industries in order to keep themselves alive and survive. People contorting themselves into tools have called us freedom. They work 40, 50 hours a week at a job they fucking hate and they call it freedom. It's not freedom. That's the opposite of freedom. You could live a life where that's not the case. You could organize your society in a way that that is not the case, but instead, this is what we've chosen. Poverty, crime, corruption, murder, depravity. These are things, the violent, we've instantiated implicit violence into our society. We eat our Cheerios. We play our Xbox. We go to our jobs. We have sex with our girlfriends. We have sex with our wives. We have sex with our mistresses. And we call it a day. And we call it a life. It's not a life. It is technically a life, yes. It's something that people live and go through. But if you're talking about living, that's not a life. It could be different. It could be different. It is misinformation. Tulsi Gabbard. It is fucking insane to say because Tulsi Gabbard don't want us devoting resources into destroying or undermining another country, that Tulsi Gabbard is somehow working with Assad and killing kids. Fucking insane. They don't even know. They don't have proof that it was Assad that did it. They don't have proof that Assad that did it. Seymour Hersh came out with a story saying that it wasn't necessarily Assad. Fucking aggravating. Jinho Choi, AFRICOM is established in order to enforce the United States imperialism in Africa. Yes, agreed. Bonnie Flore, remember the general that talked about countries the empire will invade? Yeah, you're talking about Wesley Clark. Wesley Clark said the United States was going to invade 7 countries, starting with Iraq and ending in Iran. And both presidents, for the most part, were on target with that particular plan. Both were on target with that plan. He said George Bush didn't necessarily know who to attack because for the most part, so they ended up deciding that they were going to attack Iraq and they were going to end up with Iran. Yeah, Wesley Clark recently watched that video again because Lebanon was on the list. Yes, agreed. Saudi Arabia and Israel and now United States proxy wars. Agreed. Yes. Fuck, man. My audience is fucking amazing. Why do you know this shit, guys? Like, I read this shit all the time because I have to. I love that you guys know this. I love that you guys know this. I just wish everybody else did. Last one left is in Iran, yeah. Yeah. That's a larger conflict, man. I don't think Russia is going to allow that to take place. What I mean is, look, I think any attack, any outright attack on Syria is threatening a war between Russia, Iran, and China. Russia and China are allies. I would imagine that Russia and Iran may also be allies. Or at the very least, they may ally up in regards to the United States aggression in that particular region of the world. Americans are brain dead on this. Like, we have military in like 70% of the world. And they're willing to spend money in this way. Like, military spent like $5 trillion last year, like in 1 year. They're willing to spend money in this way. But when you bring up healthcare, when you bring up school, when you bring up education, it's like, oh, you're just giving stuff away. You have the internet. Do you believe the internet is being given away to you? Do you believe roads are being given away to you? Do you believe that the technology of being able to get into a fucking car is something that was given away to you? Every society advances on the progress of the last society. Meaning, yes, you want people to have free schools because you want people to have access to education or the highest degree of education that they can get. Yes, you want as many people to go to school as could possibly go to school because that pushes your society further. The problem with this, however, is the economic system. Those people going to school, well, they're going to want jobs. They're going to want things to do with the education that those people received. Meaning you need to have some kind of conduit that would allow those people to do the things that those people want to do. I'd argue that the goal in this is not to get people more work. The goal in this is to find ways to get that work done through mechanical means and mechanical resources. Meaning if you need to shift your society in a way that says, we don't necessarily need to expand indefinitely because there is nothing that expands indefinitely. We need to live in a sustainable way. The goal should be sustainability. That's with regard to people. That's with regard to your environment. Those are the two things that are real. Your industry has to be under the constraint of what is good for the environment. Any conversation where you're talking about destroying the environment is ultimately you're killing yourself in order to make a profit, something that's not real. Yeah, I don't want to bitch about this. It's off. That's all. We tried the Kissinger Doctrine and fucked it up. We couldn't hold the Middle East. Since we can't hold it, realize, throw in the chaos, these are ancient tactics. Garnome agreed. Yeah, agreed. They don't want a united Middle East. They do not want a united Middle East. They don't want a united Africa, for that matter. When Gaddafi was saying he was trying to create that African thing based off his currency, they attacked and destroyed Libya. Now, the pretext for that was Gaddafi is going to kill his own people. So we are going to take the opportunity to kill a bunch of people for him. They did that because they didn't necessarily want him taking that currency or creating his own currency, going around the dollar. Yeah, this stuff is economic. A lot of these wars are based for economic reasons and economic purposes. The chaos that they've thrown the Middle East in many respects, boil down to this thing of economics. Boil down to economics and buffoonery by the fucking George Bush administration. They don't want China or Russia moving in. No, they do not. But they're not going to have a choice. This is no longer a unipolar world. The moment that a country gets nuclear weapons, it doesn't matter your conventional force. Your conventional force becomes almost irrelevant. If you attack Russia, Russia is going to attack you back with nuclear weapons. Yeah, Russia is going to attack back with nuclear weapons. They're not going to allow themselves to be destroyed by the United States. Yeah, Greek Gardener. We need to create a complete list of all the enemies of the state. People need to know names to see faces of our oligarchs. Jake Smith, I don't hate Kamala, but Democrats already gave her 800 superdelegates, California, New York. I'm just upset the Democrats think we're too dumb to vote. Jinho Choi, Libya was destroyed as a warning to China not to establish its... No, Libya was... Well, that might be one reason, but the reason I've seen in the WikiLeaks documents where Hillary Clinton was talking back and forth had to do with Gaddafi having a huge gold. He was trying to create this monetary thing outside of the dollar, based on his own currency. Trying to create a United African currency of sorts. That's what I've heard. That's what I've read. Jim Hoy, the yuan is the new reserve currency. I saw that, by the way. I saw that. China going around creating its own thing behind the dollar. Captain Obvious, will it though? Retaliate with nukes. If Russia is being invaded and Russia can't win a conventional war, what would you do? You're in a street fight. The guy's beating you senseless and you don't believe that you can win and you have a gun in your pocket. Are you going to pull a gun in your pocket or are you going to allow the person to beat you senseless? You're going to pull your gun. Same thing with nukes. Jim Ho, I've read about the yuan in Libya as well. Yeah, I think it would, man. I think if there was a situation, this is what I think would take place. I think Russia and China will pair up. I think Syria will probably pair up with Russia. I think North Korea will probably pair up with Russia and China. The United States may have Britain on its side as its toady, depending on who's the prime minister and depending on the aims of the person. Meaning, if Jeremy Corbyn is involved, then you're probably not going to get Britain, but you may get the European Union to assist in some way. Or you may get NATO to assist in some way. You're talking about a world war of massive proportions where you're talking about the entire world literally being at war. And more likely than not, there will be a nuclear conflict. What are you going to do? How are you going to agree that these countries are going to take nuclear weapons off the table? And why would they agree to that? If Obama was running against McCain and McCain said, hey, let's have campaign finance. Let's have the government finance our campaign. And Obama was like, fuck that. McCain said it because McCain understood that Obama was going to outraise him. Obama said no because he understood he was going to outraise McCain. He wasn't going to put down his nuclear weapon in this case, which was essentially people being conned and sending him a ton of money. People respond in that way. If you have a weapon, if you have a weapon of last resort, you use a weapon of last resort. The nuclear weapons is that weapon of last resort. To beat the Enriquez, yes, our petrodollar is going down. Yes, agreed. It should. And gold has been being shipped to China from all over the world for the last decade. Somalia too, yeah, we're in Somalia. Geopolitical blocs are forming to end the dysfunctional post-1945 world order. Yeah, but you understand why. That's because we've been fucking around. Like, we've been throwing our weight around to such a degree where it's like, oh, we can do whatever we want. We can do whatever we want. These countries are just going to bow down because we can do whatever we want. It doesn't work that way, man. It doesn't work that way. The United States is playing a game that has no endpoints. It's infinite game space, if that makes sense. Meaning, there is no win. There is no situation where a particular country wins this kind of geopolitical struggle in a sense. The United States made the assumption that we've won. We've cornered the market. We're the bee's knees. We're the best fucking thing this planet has ever seen. We've won. And they started acting as if they won something. You didn't win, dude. You had supremacy for a period of time, but you didn't win. There is no win to this game. There is no win to this game. This is a geopolitical struggle. So now you've pissed off a bunch of other blocs that'll form. So you have the European Union. And yeah, if Africa can pull itself together in some way, you may have that particular bloc. But at the very least, Russia and China, European Union, United States. Yeah. As far as Russia, United States, China, no side will launch a nuclear intentionally as it stands now. Agreed, Gardner. That's providing a war doesn't spark. That's providing a war doesn't spark. Like, that's all dependent upon conflict. If a conflict arises, you understand that one side is going to try to win that conflict. There is no such thing as saying, okay, we're losing, so we're just going to let ourselves be obliterated by the other power. It doesn't work that way. Sorry, it doesn't work that way. ICBMs are obsolete. In any case, it's subs that are now concerned. Subs and suitcase nukes are dirty bombs. Again, that depends on whether or not you realize the nuclear scientists set the nuclear clock to like 5 minutes to midnight or something like that. They've moved the thing forward. It's closer now to midnight than at any time since the Cold War. They did that because they understood that we were at somewhat of a precipice. You had an American president who was talking about putting weapons in Syria, a missile defense shield, meaning that she was going to put United States troops in Syria. If the United States would have shot down a Russian jet, you think Russia would have just said mulligan? Do you believe they would have just said mulligan? If the United States or Iran attacks Iran, neither the United States or Russia would launch a nuke. Yeah, not for Iran. I don't know. I don't think the United States has no reason to launch a nuclear missile in a sense because they're a conventional military. They spend $1 trillion on the military. They have a penis issue. It's like somebody buying a sports car for a small penis. Same thing. We spend $1 trillion on our military. We will win that war. It would look mad. It would look miserable. You would murder a lot of people. You thought murdering a lot of people in Iraq was an issue. You haven't seen nothing but Iran until you see Iran. Will Russia intervene? I don't know. Should Russia intervene? Yes. Yes. You can't let the United States do this. That's all I mean. Like, you can't let the Western powers should intervene. Yes. Russia should intervene. Yes. The rest of the world should intervene if the United States tries to attack another country. Yes. That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. The nuclear option is only really needed if people rise up against the system. If the establishment is scared, they will use their last option to keep their power. Jinho, it's accidents that worry me. Me too. Exactly, Jamal. Regards strategy, it's commoners who would have sacrificed their lives. Yes, agreed. Bonnie Fleur, I can't pronounce that last name. Gardner, accidents and the proliferation of nuclear technology to minor unstable powers. I agree with you, Gardner, but I agree with you, but I don't think the other thing is off the table. That's what I'm saying. Accidents are usually state-sanctioned murder. Russia might launch a nuke if we invaded Ukraine. Agreed. But even if that's the case, it's a small chance. You're more trusting on this than I am. I don't trust the situation at all. I just think I think Russia would take a hard line for this. If you attack Syria, would Russia get involved? Yes. Yes, of course, they're going to get involved. They've already said, if you invade Syria, if you attack a Syrian person, we're getting involved. That's the first point. If Russia gets involved and the United States kills or shoots down a Russian jet, would Russia consider that an act of war? The answer is yes, they would. He wouldn't have a choice. Vladimir Putin would not allow that. He wouldn't allow that just based on his own honor of who he considers himself as a person. He wouldn't allow it. He can't allow it. I mean, Vladimir Putin may be the figurehead in Russia, but there are other elements in Russia. It's not like it's a stable political environment. Yes, there are always other elements that allow him to have his power base. Yes, he would consider it an act of war. If he considers it an act of war, and let's say there's a major conflict between the United States and Russia, will the United States be most likely to win that conventional war? Maybe. Now, here's the thing. I think that just because you're dumping $1 trillion into your military, this is a capitalistic system. That money, a lot of that money is just being stolen. I don't believe all that money is being used for weapons. That money is probably just being squandered, and much of that money is going up to the top. I think they've become fat and happy off of the budget that they get in regards to the military. Some of it goes towards jobs, some of it goes towards weapons, but ultimately this is just a clusterfuck. They're just dumping money into stuff. What matters is the effectiveness in that sense. Would the United States win a military conflict between Russia and China? A conventional military conflict? I don't know. I don't know. I have no clue. I have no clue. If the United States is winning a military conflict between Russia and China, would Russia resort to nuclear weapons? Yes. Yes. Flip it. If the United States was losing a military conflict between Russia and China, and there were troops that were landing on our soil, would we use a military weapon? We've already used a military weapon when we didn't need to. Will we use a military weapon? In essence, will we use a nuclear weapon to rebuff or to push back if it was the last option in a war that we were losing between Russia and China? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. I don't have this epic confidence that these people who are in charge, that function purely on their own ego and all this other stuff, these bumbling fucking cowards who are leading these countries, would not necessarily take action that would destroy a large number of, or a large share of this planet. I don't have that faith. I don't have that faith at all. These guys can bumble into a military conflict just by bumbling into a military conflict, just by bluster and all this other stuff. And yeah, if we're losing a major conflict, I suspect that we're going to use the nuclear weapons. It's not there just purely as a deterrent. A deterrent is nothing if you're not willing to use it. We dropped a nuclear weapon on Japan when we didn't need to. We didn't need to. Russia had already attacked Japan. Japan was already looking for ways to surrender. Truman dropped that bomb because Truman wanted to drop that bomb. He wanted to make a point. Well, point made. You killed, incinerated a lot of people. The bombs that we have today are like 100 times stronger than the bombs that we dropped on Hiroshima. So, Gardner, we rebuilt Russia after the Soviets fell, simply prevented launch. But you understand that millions of people lost their lives in that changeover from Russia, from communism to capitalism. They lost millions of people in that transition. And rebuilt strong. Rebuilt maybe too strong. Jinho Choi. Pallets of $100 bills were flown from United States military bases to Baghdad and disappeared onto U.S. military contractors' offshore accounts. I'm not surprised. Not surprised at all. $5-6 trillion at this point. That's not including the care for the soldiers and all this stuff. Yeah, it's a waste of money. We've had like 7 naval vessels having collisions. This is like 7 our own goals. Augur Cybernaut. We've had like 7 naval vessels having collisions. This is like 7 own goals. I don't understand that one, but I understand what you're saying. The naval vessels having collisions. As long as the survival of the nation state itself is not at risk, they will not launch. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. From your mouth to God's ears. I don't know. Yes, that happened more than once, Jinho. Yeah. These people are crooks, man. Bonnie, listen to Eugene Debs' speech that sent him in jail. That speech is amazing, by the way. That Eugene Debs speech. That speech is amazing. That speech is amazing. Augur Cybernaut. The United States is not in a position for a large-scale, protracted war, especially against China or Russia. No, I don't think it is. I honestly don't think it is. I don't think it is. My concern, however, is not what I think. It's whether or not these people in power who say we spend $1 trillion on military, we should be able to knock over any government that we want. That's my concern. The bluster of it all. Yeah, you're leveraging. I heard one of the generals make this comment saying, well, we won't do an illegal order. You're a fucking liar. You're a fucking liar. We won't do an illegal order. Most of the shit that you do is illegal. Let's be honest. If you're sending your troops into one country after the next, what is your congressional justification to do that? What? When did Congress authorize this? I don't remember Congress authorizing any of this, any of these strikes, any of this going into one country after the next. When did Congress authorize this? Meaning, if you're dropping bombs in those countries, you're doing so illegally. If you're sending troops in those countries, you're doing so illegally. That's all I'm saying. It's fucking amazing to me to hear him make this case of we wouldn't drop a weapon if we weren't if we were asked to and it was illegal. Bullshit. If the president actually do something, you do it. Doesn't matter the legality of it. Doesn't matter. It aggravates the shit on me when he says it. In Russia, power means being a part of the core national state. The United States defense budget is money laundering. Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. But that's what concerns me. When people say the United States spends this much on the military as opposed to everybody else, they use that number as if saying we could kick everybody else's ass because this is how much we spend on military. They're assuming that money actually goes into what those weapons are. It's like if you work at a job. Let's say you work at a, let's say Garnome's at work. And Garnome was at work for 8 hours. 7 of those hours, Garnome was looking at pictures of Hillary Clinton. 1 hour, Garnome put in work. Well, technically, yes, Garnome was there for 8 hours. But for 7 of the hours, he's looking at pictures of Hillary Clinton and her feet. So yeah, I mean, yes, you did get 8 hours, but really only 1 of those hours will work. I'm making the point that we don't know how much of the money actually goes into creating things that will be advantageous to us in regards to enemies in conflict. Some of that money goes to it, yes. How much of it, who the fuck knows? How much money goes into the Clinton Foundation? How much of the money is used for actual good ends? It's kind of my point. It's kind of my point. Garnome. And I was licking the screen. Fair enough, man. Again, I'm a libs lib on this. Your sexual proclivities are your own. Garnome always fapping furiously to hear Hillary Clinton. Alright, this is going on for like 2 hours, and we've talked about every fucking thing under the sun. Stalinizhov didn't launch nukes when Kremlin made it clear that technically wanted him to do so. General could be telling you he'd do the same. August Cybernaut, you're right. That mistake that was made with that was a mistake where they told the guy to launch and the Russian chose not to launch because he didn't necessarily want to cause war. That's true. Agreed. Good point. Good point. But from what you've seen of the United States and the way we do our military, do you honestly believe? Do you honestly believe? Do you have a good faith belief? Let's say, do you believe out of 100 cases, over 50% will say no? Or will they do what the president told them to do? Maybe I'm more cynical on this. Maybe I'm more cynical. If they put American troops on home soil, if the order was given to shoot people in the face, would those troops do it? I would say those troops will probably do it, yes. I would say those troops will probably do it. They were given an order, they follow their orders. That's my thought. I could be wrong on this. I'm not in the military. But I get this feeling that they follow their orders. Meaning if their orders is, oh, go kill or drop a bomb on those people and murder a bunch of people, then they're going to go and drop a bomb on those people and murder a bunch of people. If they're going to be, the craziest thing, this kind of, the thing, I was watching this show to give this kind of hint across about military culture in regards to the way I think some of them see things. I'm watching this show, I think it was Dateline or something. And then they were talking about these drone pilots who sit in these booths all day and they get into a drone and they fly those drones abroad and they murder people abroad. They murder civilians. You find robots while they're sitting in a comfortable air-conditioned shaft or whatever this place is. And the show wasn't necessarily talking about the people they were murdering. They weren't talking about that. That was off the table. What they were talking about was PTSD from the guy who's sitting in that fucking booth flying a flying killer robot, murdering those drones, murdering those civilians, murdering those people. The show coddled them. Oh, it's so sad. I understand you have post-traumatic stress because you've been out there murdering civilians while you're sitting in this cozy chair. Oh, it's so sad to be you. It's so sad to be a fucking killer. But you're not going to call him that. You're going to say he's a patriot. You're going to say he's a good American because he's following orders. That's what they're going to say. That's what the perspective of the show was. Not, wait a minute, he's using flying killer robot, he's murdering people. Should he be murdering those people? What did those people do? How many of those people are civilians? What's the death toll that you're okay with? How can you even identify that that's the person that you actually want to kill when all of the records say it's to the contrary, that you don't really know who you're out there murdering? Why are you fucking coddling that guy? It's fucking amazing. That's our culture. That's America. That's what we are. So if you're asking me, would the general give it an order? If he's given an order, would he turn that order down? I'm inclined to say no, he's not going to turn that order down. He's going to follow his orders. How many countries have the United States been bombing? We're in 70% of the countries around the world. Do you believe that those military bases are just there to be pretty? Or do you believe those military bases are there to actually affect the will of this country? What do you believe? Meaning that when they killed that soldier in Niger, that was in response to those soldiers or somebody getting killed by us somewhere else. It's fucking amazing. It's like people act like the actions that we take are somehow separate and distinct from what happens to us. You know what I mean? It's like this person does something, there's a response, and the only thing people talk about is a response, not necessarily why did this take place. Why did this take place? We have soldiers flying in one country after the next, dropping bombs, murdering civilians. Many cases, 90% of the people being murdered are civilians. That's us. That's us. That's what we do. You have other cases where soldiers are going into particular countries to help murder other people. Those soldiers who were doing that Libya bomb strike, you understand, none of these people had congressional justification to do this. They were just told to do it by the president. So in every scenario that I can see, whether I'm talking about the Iraq War, them kicking down doors and murdering people in their houses, and this is from testimonies from soldiers themselves, what am I supposed to think about this? If this guy is getting up here saying, yes, we followed a ton of illegal orders in the past, but if we were asked this particular illegal order, we would turn that down. Yeah, I think he's lying. I think he's lying. Or I think he wouldn't be the one who would get the order. That's what I think. That's precisely what I think. It's only so long before SIXCOMs based on drone operator offices. We're not. Yeah, that's sick. I mean, it's sick that that's the tenor of the story. This guy's doing flying killer robots, and the story is talking about his post-traumatic stress disorder. Fucking killing people in an air-conditioned room. Come on. Come on, that's fucking sick. And I know some people will look at this and be like, oh, he's denigrating the troops. That troop is murdering somebody. Be honest. Be honest. At which point does being a patriot means that you need to be a killer? I mean, ultimately, your country, under normal circumstances, you in no way will attach a robot with a missile and fly that around and kill somebody, even if it's somebody you hated. But once your government says, hey, it's okay for you to do this, you think it's perfectly okay to do that. It's not. I'm sorry, it's not. It's not. It's not at all. And the fact that these soldiers all around the world think it's perfectly okay because their government tells them to do it is a problem. It's a problem. If you want to be a patriot, there are other ways for you to be a patriot. In the moment that this country kind of gets it in its head that there are other ways at home doing better for your particular community and your particular society, that you can put that energy of, I need to be a patriot, I need to do something good for my country. Are there other ways? Are there other ways that you can culture your society to be a patriot? Does it always mean killing somebody else? There are no enemy at our gates. None. There are no enemy at our gates. There's nobody trying to beat down the door. Nobody. Nobody. The monsters that are out there are monsters that we ourselves are creating by the actions that we ourselves are taking. I am not in this camp of saying everybody in the world is kumbaya. There are problems that we need to address, be it terrorism or anything else. Fair enough. But how many people do you need to kill abroad to get rid of terrorism? And if you're telling me that there is no end to that answer, that's an infinite number, meaning you need to spend resources infinitely going after terrorists that are going to be infinite number of terrorists. And this is a fool's errand. It's a fucking retarded strategy. It's like, come on. It's fucking aggravating. I'm guided by the beauty of our weapons, Jamal. I am coddled upper-class suburbanite who loves Leonard Coy and Fleetwood Mac. I live in a fantasy world. I live in a fantasy world. Except the media has a dollar motive to perpetuate the agenda of the military. Agreed. The United States didn't need to use... No, they didn't. The Moab, they just wanted to. Yeah, agreed. Agreed. Mouse C. Yeah, agreed. That's sick. That's massively sick, by the way. The mother of all bombs. We don't need to drop this bomb. We're doing it because we just want to. We just want to. We just want to kill a lot of people. That's all. That's how we get our kicks in the morning. The president doesn't need congressional approval for military action. August Sabanot. The president does need congressional approval for wars. He does need congressional approval for wars. Let's be honest. The president is not a king. The president is not a king. And let's stop fucking around with the terminology. If you're going to go into a country, that's a war. Meaning, yes, he got congressional authorization for attacking Iraq. Mind you, Iraq didn't do shit to us. Iraq didn't do shit to us. We invaded a country to kill 1 million people. That's what we're talking about. He did that under the pretext of a lie. He should be in prison. Whatever, he's not. What the fuck does Syria have to do with that? What about Somalia? What about Niger? What about all these other countries that we're in? What about Pakistan? At which point did the president get authority to go into one country after the next? What point? Explain to me, August Abenard. What is the congressional justification for the president to do that? Be it Obama, be it Bush, be it Trump. Where is it? Explain it. Show me the law. Show me the rule that allows this. President's commander-in-chief. Congress can starve his actions through the budget, but it's commander-in-chief. So you're saying that the president has authority to go into any country that the president wants. That is not true. That is not true. The president has to get congressional authorization for war. One of the reasons that they constrained the president on this is because they understood how bad it was to have a king. They understood how bad it was to have a king. Meaning that king goes gallivanting around the world under his own steam as opposed to getting this kind of authorization of the people itself. No. No. Congress has authorization to declare war, not the president of the United States. And let's stop fucking around with the terminology saying that, well, I mean, he's commander-in-chief, so he can go into any country he wants. That's insane. And that's not true. That's insane and not true. Fucking king deserves a blade against their necks. Agreed. To Baita Enriquez. To make Trump seem presidential, killing people. Yeah, pretty much. That's what it means to be a president. Congress has not declared war since World War II, and they now have the constitutional responsibility to stop wars. Yes, war is a legal term. Call it whatever you want. Call it whatever you want. You can say war is a legal term. Fair enough. But you're acting as if legal terms are completely untethered to the reality to which we exist. Meaning, certainly you understand that if I say there's a blue wall, that's either true or false. There is either a blue wall or there's not. Now, you may use the legal terms in this as this kind of sketchy thing where the person can make their argument of, well, what does war mean? What does it really mean to be in a war? That's the conversation you want to have. What does it mean to be in a war? What does war actually mean? What does it actually mean? It depends on what your definition of is. Yeah, fuck the terminology. Brass tacks. Be honest. Be honest. Don't have this conversation unless you're going to be honest. If you're going to go into another country, what is that called? Meaning, if I attack Iraq, when George Bush attacked Iraq, was that a war? When he attacked Afghanistan, was that a war? What were the means to which he was using to attack those things? And what made that a war? What made that a war? When the president is dropping bombs in Syria, or not Syria, well, he did drop a bomb in Syria. He attacked another country. You're telling me, your argument is that the president attacking another country, sending missiles into another country and killing their particular people is not war. That's something else. I don't know what that is. That's war. That's called war. That's what war is. War is the wanton slaughter of human beings for ridiculous reasons. That's what war is. When the president is dropping bombs in Pakistan, when he's dropping bombs in Somalia, when they're running operations in all of these countries, you're trying to make this argument that, well, wait a minute, war, that's not really war. That's just wanton murder. That's all that is. That's not war. Bullshit. Bullshit. Be honest. If you're murdering a lot of people, I don't give a shit what you call it. It is war. It's a military action. Now, you're trying to say that the president can have any military action he wants, meaning the president can have any war that he wants. He just doesn't have to call it a war. It's insanity. That's insanity. Declaration of a state of emergency legally means stores can raise prices. Legal terms matter. August Abenard, let me ask you this. What was the justification for Trump to launch a missile into Syria? What was that justification? Donald Trump says, oh, the babies bothered me. Donald Trump had been murdering 100-some babies prior. But in this particular case, he decides, I am mad for whatever reason. I think Syria did this particular thing, which he had no evidence of. He didn't even wait for the evidence. So he decided to launch a missile strike into another country. And in launching that missile strike, he ends up killing people in that country. You're telling me that the president of the United States, we weren't under attack. There was no threat of us being under attack. None of our interests was under attack. What is the legal justification for the president of the United States to launch a missile into another country, killing people in that country? That's what I'm fundamentally missing. That's an act of war. That's an act of war. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. You can use whatever name you want. It's not torture. It's enhanced interrogation. Call it what it is. This is bullshit. Call it what it is. Call it what it is. Who was it that wanted to put our current wars to a vote and Congress voted down even without discussing it? That was Rand Paul. That was Rand Paul. There was a Democrat that wanted to do it too. I don't know, don't remember the person's name, but yeah, that was Rand Paul. He said he did a sit-in. President has launched codes, Congress doesn't. The president's job is to effect wars after Congress declares the war. Job of the president is not to go gallivanting around the globe. Are you really arguing with me on this? Like, is your argument really that war is different than military action, and that president, look, military action is a subset of a war? That's the case I would make. Otherwise, why are you having military action? Your military actions are justified in cases of war to some degree. So President Bush goes into Iraq. He has military actions in Iraq because he's at war with Iraq. That makes sense to me. The president is not at war with Syria, but the president is doing missile strikes into Syria? That makes no sense. You're going out the confines of what you've created. Meaning, if we're at war, I understand the concept of a military action. But what is the president doing military action if he's not in a state of war? That's what I'm fundamentally missing. If we're at war, who declared that war? When was that war declared? And if we haven't declared war, what is the legal means? What is the legal reasoning that the president is doing to affect all of these wars in all of these countries? Come on, be honest. This is bullshit. The language, you're using terminology. That terminology is not reflecting the real world. You're being slippery with the language. Call it what it is. Doesn't it concern anybody that the United States has been at war for 222 out of 239 years? Yes, it does. A.G.T. Del Chomsky. The recent power of the executive is something that has been yet to address. Yes, it's something dictatorship. Yes, easy now. Let's all hug each other. Olga Sabana, I'm not mad. I'm not mad. I'm expressive, but I'm not mad. I'm not mad. I'm not mad. I do get expressive. Look, I don't like people being in bad straits. And that's on both ends. If you love the troops, if you believe in the troops, don't you want to keep them at home? That's my only point. Do you really want somebody who's your brother, cousin, uncle, sister, mother fucked up in the head because they went over thinking that they were doing some kind of patriotic duty and they were pulling bullets in people, or they themselves were getting shot or injured by some bomb that went off? Do you really want that for them? And do you really think that's necessary, given that there's no barbarians at our gates? That's my point. If you care about them, if you care about their mental status, if you care about their physicality at all, you would want to keep them at home. You're creating more terrorists by the actions of the quote-unquote president in this case. You're just creating more terrorists. You're creating more people who hate our guts. Every bomb that you drop, every person that you kill is another terrorist that you create. That's my point. I don't like this idea that the United States has been using the resources of this nation, this great nation, all of the resources of this nation. We're fortunate in what this nation had to offer, and using that and turn that into a fist that we use to punch one country after the next, being the schoolyard bully of the international community. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I don't understand how killing became okay. I don't understand how this thing of being a perpetual war and then us changing the language of that perpetual war to make that perpetual war seem like it was fucking awesome. We're the aggressors. That's us. We're the ones that were toppling democracies. We're the ones that were kicking over governments and adversely affecting voting and elections in these other countries. We're the ones who were putting in strongmen. That was us. That was us. We're not honest about the things that we've done in our past and the things that we do in our current culture. And this militaristic culture where we think it's perfectly okay and we coddle soldiers and if you care about soldiers, you would keep them at home. I have a cousin that's in the military. My wife has a brother that was in the military. If you care about them, you want them to stay at home. I'm not mad. I do get expressive. It's just we're talking about life. Like this is not pontificating about something that doesn't necessarily matter. Like if we're talking about Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern, that's one thing. Those are mythical things. If we're talking about life, there's real world consequences for the things that the president does in that office. One of those consequences is there's somebody sitting somewhere that already in unfortunate means, and they're walking outside and it's their last day on this planet because they have a bomb drop saying made from America. They may or may not have gotten the terrorists, quote-unquote terrorists, that they were looking for. But there's somebody, some kid, some baby, some mom, some dad, some brother, some sister, some teacher, some garbage man that's going to see his last day from a bomb dropped by us. And there's no consequence for those bad actions. Zero consequence. So yes, I get a little animated when I'm talking about stuff like this because it's aggravating to me that this is allowed. That's all. Tabitha Enriquez, Congress was put in charge of war powers because they are directly responsible to their constituents sending their children to die. Exclamation points. Agreed. Agreed. Agreed, agreed, agreed. Neither Congress or POTUS are in control of our military posture. That's the real truth. As far as the codes, I highly doubt they would give him everything he needs to launch despite what they tell you. That may be true, but that's wishful thinking. That's the same wishful thinking that people had of if Hillary Clinton shot down a Russian jet, Russia in no way would respond. It's like, why do you think that? So why do you think that? Why do you believe that? Like, why do you believe that if you shoot down a Russian jet that they won't respond? That's special thinking from Hillary Clinton voters who wanted to believe that Hillary Clinton putting a missile defense shield in Syria was in no way going to start a war. Those people are fucking insane. There's no way for them to know that. That's wishful thinking. I have to be honest, Garden Gnome, I think that's also wishful thinking. Tabitha Enriquez, now they can say it was the president, Captain Obvious. As if we're supposed to be blown a fucking way with games and synonyms. That's funny. Tabitha Enriquez, and still they keep their seats in Congress. Yes, because the American public don't care about people being murdered. U.S. president will probably be prevented from launching the nuclear weapons without congressional authorization. Yeah, I think this is wishful thinking. I think the light at the end of the tunnel is a bus. That's what I think. I like it when you get expressive, JT. You're good at maintaining your principles, even when you're heated. Thank you, Del Chomsky. I have a wife. So when we argue, we never get bad when we argue. It's something I think is a big deal. I think you can be expressive. I think you can try to get yourself across. There are lines that I don't think you should go across when you're arguing, particularly with somebody you care about and you love. There are lines that I feel the same way about this channel. Yeah, I may get expressive, but it's not meant in a bad way. Yeah, I don't want you to think that was meant in a bad way. Gardno, I don't think Congress is a relevant party. Jinho, ebbed military intel elites would decide. Using it to make more utter shit, yeah. By the way, I'm speaking from experience. Augur Cybernaut. Explain your experience. Tell. Lastly, there's a lastly, so there was something at the top. Where is it? Karma has to get us eventually. Yeah. Military intelligence community are below civilian authority, supposedly. Garden. Uniforms do not launch nuclear weapons without permission. Agreed. Lastly, try, quote-unquote, war has a denotative and cognitive significance. Treating the two as the same is not fair. What you call war is just an evocative term. Just call it conflict. Understand, but if you're going to call it conflict, it allows you to avoid the actual repercussions of the term. What you're doing is war. It's the conflict. It's like saying we're separate and distinct from the things that we're doing. It's not conflict as if this third person thing. We ourselves are doing things. Now, you want to use conflict instead of war because you want to kind of evade the consequences of doing those things. But no, Congress needs to declare war if Congress is going to do that. If Congress is going to say the president is perfectly okay with going into one country after the next and attacking those countries, then I myself, looking at this, have a hard time seeing the distinction between war, meaning the president is attacking one country after the next and he's in those countries for long periods of time. That sounds like a war to me. That sounds like a war to me. Pretending it's not a war and using other terms to avoid the consequences of war is not fair in the least. We are waterboarding this guy. But, this is not torture. It's not fair that you call it torture. You need to call it enhanced interrogation. That's what it is. We're interrogating him aggressively. That's what it is. Call it what it is. It's torture. These things matter to individual lives. We're caught to think in mythical terms, but we see the real world damage every day. Agreed. Garden of Congress is the USG legislative branch. Local yokes are impotent. Not necessarily, man. War on crime, war on fat, war on cancer. This is just words used to evoke righteousness. 1960s protest power. Yeah, but I'm talking about real terms. I'm not talking about this kind of this esoteric war that libs like to, bring out, like, this war on Christmas, that type of stuff. Certainly, come on, man, be fair. You can see the difference between somebody using that in the sense of, we're going to fight for Christmas or something like that, some ridiculous thing, versus an actual war. Versus an actual war. There are no lives lost in the war on Christmas. None. Yes, there have been lives destroyed on the war on drugs, but certainly there is a difference. Meaning, what we do when the president makes the decision to fire off missiles or to send killer drones or to murder this person or that person or go into this country or that country. In any other context, that's a war. You're changing the terminology. It's a war. Call it what it is. Call it what it is. If you want to say that this war is conflict, yeah, war is conflict. By the nature of war, it's conflict. Fair enough. I would say war is more descriptive, particularly when we're talking about military action. We're very, very specific. This is not about war on Christmas. It's not about using language and words. And so I can define my terms. If we're in a theater for a period of time and we're doing things, we're launching military operations, I have a hard time seeing how us launching military operations in Iraq for a long period of time, killing a large number of people, that's considered to be a war. That's the real world tether to the term itself. If we're doing the same thing in other countries, I'm missing your logic. I'm missing your logic here. My experiences in theater. I understand Agronaut, Cybernaut. Fair enough. But certainly, yes, we're going to start fighting the real wars like the one on Christmas. I know, right? Stevie, I punched a 5-year-old because she told me happy holidays. Yeah, Garden, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. 12 is the 12 is the lowest number you can slap a kid. Mouse C. Trump was angry that Assad was killing the Syrian people, so Trump is going to kill some Syrians too. I know. He wasn't angry. Trump has murdered hundreds, thousands at this point. I mean, the report that came out, Trump murder toll has outpaced Obama in spades. The number of civilians that Trump has been killing is amazing. And that's just besting what Obama did. Yeah. Alright guys, I've been on for 3 hours, almost 3 hours. So I'm going to call it a day. August Cybernaut, I enjoyed the back and forth. I would say put your experience down. I want to hear it. I want to hear it. Maybe I'm a hard ass on the military in this case. We have a civilian military. 1% of the population goes into the military. Because of that, we've had this thing where we're leveraging their bravery in order to go elsewhere. And because the rest of the population is not adversely affected by the 1% that decide to sacrifice their lives for their countries in this way, the country ignores it. The country ignores it. The Vietnam War with the draft galvanized the population, a mass of population, because those people were being exposed to the war and to the theater of war. The parties have gotten an idea of, well, hey, let's just stop exposing the rest of the population to the war. Or let's just expose this 1% of the population to the war. So we have a civilian military. That troubles me because it means that ultimately people ignore it. Yes, Obama can kill thousands. People ignore it. He sings really well, so people ignore the fact that he's murdered thousands of people. Same thing with Trump. Trump can outpace Obama in spades in the number of people that he's killing. People still ignore it. They talk about Trump drinking water. They talk about Trump wanting to see his tax returns. All this other stuff. The actual stuff that he's doing in the world. Off the table. Off the table. That's immensely aggravating to me. We don't know if Assad dropped the canister. Like, we don't know if he was responsible for that gas strike. Seymour Hersh came out with a bombshell report. They wouldn't even release it in the United States media. They released it in German papers, making this point that the Syrian opposition had tracked down weapons. These had started getting the products necessary to make Syrian gas. It's very possible that the opposition did it. It's very possible the opposition did it. Trump in no way waited to figure out who actually was responsible. He didn't wait for anything. He just struck. He just struck. I would make the case that Trump didn't give a shit about those kids. Trump has murdered many kids himself, so he didn't give a shit about the kids. He wanted to distance himself from Russia. That's what it was. He knows Russia and Syria are allies. He wanted to attack Syria, making it look like he was more distant from Assad. That's what I think. I could be wrong. That's what I think. I don't think Trump gives a shit about the kids one way or the other. So, yeah. Good talk, get some sleep. Nah, I'm gonna be up all day. I've done I slept all day yesterday. My wife comes in. Well, I was up the prior night, and she was like, "You know, it's almost 5 o'clock." What? What do you mean it's almost 5 o'clock? You let me sleep all day? Yes, I'll let you sleep all day. So we were up, hanging out for the next several hours. Today we have, oh shit, her mom is coming over. My mom is coming over, so it's like a Thanksgiving brunch. So that should be fun. Donald Trump is merely following orders. Big babies, ocean babies. Thanks, Jamal. You're on it. Argonaut, good talk. Oh, yeah, good talk. Get some sleep. There will be no sleep. Enjoy your morning. Oh, thank you, God. Oh, that was good. Enjoy your garden. Oh, what about me? Chopped liver? Captain Obvious. Good night, Jamal and everyone. No, it's not here. Conflict is soft term the American people understand. War. They understand war. And thanks, man. New insomnia friends. That's funny, buddy. Yeah, I am an insomniac through and through, unfortunately. So yeah, I've been one for like 30 years. All right, guys. I'm gonna end this. Thank you, everyone that gave the super chat. That is always appreciated. Totally, always appreciated. Always appreciated. And yeah, if you enjoy the content, share, like, subscribe. Feel free to write all that good stuff. Augur Cybernaut, please write your experience. I actually want to see it, even if you want to just send it to me. I am fantastically curious, and I will end it at that. Thanks, guys. Have a good night. Have a good morning, and happy Thanksgiving. Bye bye.